Chapter 343. The lake was a faint blue, clear and translucent. Lush vegetation and pavilions dotted the shore, creating a beautiful scenery. At this moment there were figures everywhere. It was unknown how many people had come, men and women, young and old. It was a noisy scene. Wu Ziming strode forward with a sneer on his face. "Hey brat, you finally dare to show yourselves. After hiding for so many days you can't hold back anymore?" Li Heishui also sneered. "Can't hold back anymore? I was so excited that I came out of seclusion to ask you for source. Did you bring enough Genesis source? If it's less, you can go back to where you came from. We won't accept any." Everyone by the lake was speechless. These two were at each other's throats the moment they arrived. This Genesis technique showdown would definitely be very intense. Brother Tuoba has enough Genesis source, but don't even think about it. Li Zhongtian sneered. Tuoba Chang was very indifferent, not caring about this. He silently stood there, observing the island and the lake and the sparkling petals. "It's good that you have Genesis source." Li Heishui's lips curled in a trace of indifference. He was afraid that the other party would gain something without Genesis source. Wu Ziming smiled nonchalantly. "Do you really think you can take it away? From what I see, the Genesis source you obtained from the Spirit Herbs auction is just the right amount to contribute." "That's right, Brother Tuoba's grandfather's 300th birthday is approaching. You guys have given him a huge gift." Li Zhongtian laughed heartily. "Cut the crap, let's have a real Genesis technique showdown. Let's see who will be giving away Genesis source," Li Heishui said. Everyone nearby was filled with anticipation. These two groups were filled with confidence, and both of them were super Genesis technique experts. It was very likely that they would obtain an astonishing treasure today. "That's right, a Genesis technique showdown. Let's have a look at the rare treasures. Everything is fake. Let's cut the stone and see the truth. Let's fight now." Everyone was very excited. They wanted to see the methods of a Genesis technique expert. Perhaps they could see the birth of a rare treasure. Even the Yuan Taoist master had praised the mysterious techniques of a Genesis technique aristocratic family. Everyone will be in for a treat today. Wu Ziming was very high profile. "It's a pity that it's a duel of country bumpkins." Li Chongtian muttered in a low voice, but everyone could still hear him. "The higher you climb, the harder you fall. Now you can brag as much as you can and belittle us." Li Heishui sneered, but he didn't say it out loud. Yi Fan stepped forward and wanted to cross the water to the small island where the Heaven Series Stone Garden was located. In order to gather 500,000 kilograms of origin source, he could only choose precious stones. Taba Chang, who hadn't even glanced at Yi Fan, and Li Heishui had finally glanced at Yi Fan and said, "Wait." Yi Fan stopped and looked at him calmly. Since the other party was so cold, he didn't want to say anything and waited for him to speak. Tuoba Chang said, "The Heaven Stone Garden of the Sacred Land is a sacred land. True Genesis technique experts fight their way in." "What do you want?" Yi Fan asked. "We don't need to start from the first stone garden. We can use this lakeside as the starting point. If we can't find Genesis of the same level, there's no need to enter the sacred stone garden to compete." "That's right. If the difference in Genesis techniques is too great, Brother Tuoba doesn't need to waste time." Wu Ziming agreed. "That should be the case. If we can't find Genesis of the same level, what's the point of entering the Ji clan's sacred stone garden?" Li Chongtian sneered. "Alright, you choose your stone." Yi Fan didn't have much to say to him. By the lakeside, grass and trees grew and pavilions stood tall, but there were very few stones. One of the Ji clan's Genesis masters stepped forward and said with a bitter smile, "There are no stones here, only a few scattered garden stones." Tuoba Chang shook his head and said, "No, in my opinion, there are still some precious stones here. You just need to be perceptive." Everyone present was shocked. There were no stones by the lakeside, only common waste stones. They were ornaments of the garden, accompanying the roots of the ancient trees or beside the old vines. Yi Fan and Tuoba Chang moved at the same time, walking between the most ordinary stones. Their movements were extremely fast. Otherwise, if there really was a strange stone, it would definitely be chosen by the other party first. The stone that his finger touched turned golden. Someone cried out in surprise. "What's going on?" Many people were dumbfounded. Tuoba Chang's speed was extremely fast. His index finger kept pointing out, and every time it landed on a stone, the stone would turn golden as if it was cast from gold. "This is Crimson Gold Divine Hand, the realm of perfection," an elder exclaimed, feeling that it was an eye-opener. It was the first time many people had heard of it, and naturally, it was the first time they had seen it with their own eyes. Tuoba Chang's finger seemed to have a strange magical power. As he walked, he touched dozens of stones until they were completely golden. Only after he walked a dozen steps away did those stones return to their normal state, and people couldn't help but be shocked. Yi Fan's heart trembled. The other party was indeed an expert. Crimson Gold Divine Hand had already reached the realm of perfection, and he could clearly see what was inside the stones. Ding! Suddenly Tuoba Chang stopped and pointed at a stone that was riddled with holes. It looked like a rotten piece of wood that had been chewed on by insects and was full of holes. He held this stone in his hand and continued to choose stones along the way. However, in the end he didn't change anything and chose this stone. This is the ghost-shattering stone and it almost can't be produced. Why did you choose this? Many people were puzzled and even Wu Ziming couldn't help but remind him. Yi Fan came to the lakeside and swept his eyes over some stones. He didn't make a move for a long time. After all, this wasn't the true stone garden, and there were only some useless stones here. It was a bit difficult to choose a precious stone. However, no one rushed him. The scene was deathly silent and everyone was waiting quietly. Many people were confident in him since he could cut out the primordial divine medicine. Yi Fan walked half a circle around the small lake and looked at all the useless stones. Suddenly his eyes lit up. He went to the lakeside and fished out a stone that was as big as a human head. He looked at it and chose it. Tuoba Chang was very straightforward and didn't say anything. He pointed with his gold finger, and the ghost-shattering stone broke into pieces. A dazzling light shot out. It was a sky-blue light that was very beautiful. It was reflected in everyone's eyes. It was a xenogenic source that was as big as a fist. It shone with light like the essence of the blue sky. It shot out beams of blue light. This was the blue diamond source and it was worth 1,500 kilograms of pure source. Yi Fan didn't say anything. He gently swiped the stone and it broke. At the same time, a red mist rose up and shone. It was also a xenogenic source and it was about the same size. It was like a fiery red sun and it shone with light. It was called the fire red source. Everyone was shocked. Geniuses could turn stone into gold, and they could casually cut out 1,500 kilograms of source. People could only admire them but they couldn't learn it. Okay, let's go to the island. Tuoba Chang didn't say anything and boarded the boat. No one dared to fly here so they could only take the boat. The people of Ji Clan's gambling den could only secretly pray. It was a disaster and not a blessing for these two experts to choose this place. Yi Fan and Li Heishui boarded the boat and rowed towards the island. The real battle was about to begin. Let's go and watch. We will stand on the water and watch quietly. Many cultivators asked and in the end the Ji family people agreed. They were delighted and surrounded the island. The island was only a few hundred meters wide and there were many trees. Many of them were thousands of years old and they were strong like dragons. Their petals danced in the air and they shone brightly. The island was decorated very well. There was a spirit spring and strange stones were laid out. It was a natural scene and the flowers and trees were all around. This was like a paradise. On the island, there was an old man with skin like a baby and hair as white as snow. He sat among the trees and his eyes were closed. He didn't move and didn't react at all. Haha, we're not late, right? A group of old people appeared. They were all old and healthy and their ages were frighteningly old. We finally made it. Luckily, it hasn't started yet. It was the group of old men who had cut the stones for Yi Fan at the Dao Yi Stone Workshop. These people had great backgrounds and came from various large sections. Many of them didn't have much lifespan left, so no one was willing to offend them. After the group of old people got the news, they excitedly rushed over and directly landed on the island. The Ji family's Heaven Stone Garden couldn't let anyone enter casually, but these people were old customers so it was specially opened for them. There were many white heads as far as the eye could see. Sister Biyue let Miaoi go in too. And Miaoi, who had just rushed over, saw Ji Biyue and asked. Ji Biyue chuckled and nodded in agreement. With this exception, Jiang Yifei, Yao Yuekong, Su Heng, Jin Qishao, the Prince of Great Xia, the Little Nun in White, and some successors of the sacred grounds also entered the stone garden. Everyone was shocked. The impact of this Genesis technique showdown was so great that it attracted so many people. Not only were there the elders, but there were also sacred land descendants like Xiang Yifei and the Saint Son of All Beginnings. Ha! A young man, don't tell me you're going to cut out another peerless treasure this time? An old man laughed. Another person walked up and said to Yi Fan, do you need me to introduce you? The good things here are no less than the Daoyi sacred land. Some stones have been here for many years and we've been thinking about them. They're comparable to the 9-orifice stone golem. Hearing this, The expressions of the Ji family stone workshop people changed. They cursed inwardly. These old people had nothing better to do. Yi Fan smiled and expressed his thanks to them. Under an ancient tree, Yi Fan found a dragon head stone. It was as big as a millstone and was extremely lifelike. There was a faint dragon aura around it. This stone? He was shocked, full of shock. This stone was too extraordinary. Even a normal person could see some dragon aura, let alone him. Especially since this stone was natural and not man-made. It naturally became a dragon's head. People couldn't help but sigh in admiration. How is it? This stone is even more special than the 9-orifice stone golem. This is the head of a true dragon. An old man sighed. Yi Fan was indeed shocked. After careful observation, he couldn't figure it out. There was a phenomenon on the surface of the stone. The dragon aura was faintly discernible, but he felt that the inside might be hollow. He couldn't be sure. How about this dragon head stone? It's priced at 50,000 kilograms. Do you dare to cut it? An old man asked. Forget about this stone. Yi Fan shook his head. He really couldn't figure it out. If you don't cut this stone, you'll make us old fellows regret it for the rest of our lives. The group of old men urged him. If I cut this stone, I'll most likely regret it for the rest of my life. Yi Fan shook his head firmly. It wasn't worth the risk. On the other side, some old men were enthusiastically introducing the sky-high price stones in the Heaven Series Stone Garden to Tuoba Chang. This stone can make a sound. Li Heishui was shocked. He pointed at a 50-kilogram stone in the nearby spirit spring. At this moment, it was greenish-brown. When the clear spring water hit it, it gave off a pleasant sound as if someone was playing a zither. This stone is very special. It's called the Immortal Sound Stone. We old fellows have been eyeing it for decades. This stone would give off a wonderful sound as long as water hit it. It was extremely strange, making people want to cut it open to see what was going on. 80,000 kilograms of source, so expensive. Yi Fan knocked on it gently and listened carefully. In the end he frowned. This did not seem like a stone from the source mine. He thought hard for a moment and finally stood up. How about this stone? It's unforgettable. An old man pointed to the front. This was a land facing the sun. There was no vegetation and it was very dry. There was only a solitary stone about the size of a table. 80,000 kilograms of source, isn't this too ridiculous? Li Heishui was shocked. Because this stone is special. The world gave birth to a Tao diagram. You guys go take a look. An old man introduced. Yi Fan walked over and was shocked. There was a deep 8 trigrams imprinted on the stone. This must have been carved on. Li Heishui curled his lips. It was born. Yi Fan had learned Genesis techniques and could tell. He was very uneasy. The stones in the Ji family's sacred stone garden were all extraordinary. How is it, little friend? Are you tempted? Do you want to cut it open and show us? A few old men tried to persuade him. Yi Fan studied it carefully. After a long time he said, apart from this Tao diagram, I can't see anything special for now. Little friend is really calm. Then come and take a look at this garden's treasure. A group of old men led him to the other side. This was a very large stone about 2 meters tall. It stood quietly beside the flowering trees. The falling flowers gave it a kind of ethereal feeling. This stone is worth 150,000 kilograms of source? So expensive. Even if you cut it with God source, it wouldn't be much. Li Heishui shook his head. Little friend, you have to look carefully. This stone is very special. It's called Peerless Beauty. A group of old men praised this stone. On this exquisite stone, the world gave birth to a diagram. The outline was the head of a beauty. Although it wasn't clear, it gave one an ethereal feeling. It should be a peerless beauty. Some people speculate that there might be a peerless beauty sealed inside. You can see the outline through the wall. Do you dare to cut it? An old man's eyes were burning. He really hoped that Yi Fan would nod. Let me take a look. Yi Fan walked around the stone, knocking and listening. He was really troubled. After looking at 4 heavenly stones, he couldn't see through any of them. He felt that they were all hollow and nothing could be cut out. However, it was faintly discernible. He had a feeling that there might be a shocking treasure inside. This made him frown. Cut this precious stone called Peerless Beauty. Maybe a female sacred spirit will come out. An old man tempted. If I really cut out a female sacred spirit, who in the divine city can suppress her? Yi Fan smiled. I think little friend is tempted. This garden's treasure really can't be missed. Some old men were even sadder than Yi Fan and tried to persuade him. Chapter 344. These heaven-grade strange stones were all extraordinary and were the treasures of the garden. Even Yi Fan couldn't see through them. He felt that this knowledge was vast and endless. In the past, the Yuan Taoist master was called a peerless genius. He could see through the ancient minds of the earth with a glance, and he could see through all the secrets in the source. Tuoba Chang also frowned. He felt a bit of pressure walking in this stone garden. Some strange stones were shrouded in mist, making it hard for him to see through them. The island was very small, only a few hundred meters in circumference. The ancient trees were strong, but they weren't densely packed. Each tree was like a horned dragon, its old skin was like dragon scales, and its branches were full of flowers. Pink, pure white, sky blue, light purple. Every single petal was sparkling and translucent, and their fragrance assailed the nostrils. This was like the pure land of the gods, and it gave people a feeling of peace, tranquility, purity, holiness, and divinity. Especially under an ancient tree in the center, the old man of the Ji family who guarded the stone garden had skin like a baby and hair as white as snow. He was like a god sitting cross-legged. Many old men came here, but they didn't disturb him. From beginning to end, this person had been meditating with his eyes closed. Yi Fan and Tuoba Chang walked around and looked at the strange stones. They faced each other under a few ancient flowering trees, and everything was very calm. Tuoba Chang said, "Peerless treasures don't count. If you lose, you will give the other divine item apart from the 50,000 kilograms of source." "That's what I wanted." Yi Fan nodded. Then the two started to choose stones. Everyone held their breaths and watched seriously. The great Xia Prince and Miaoyi Ji Baiyu Jianghu Fei Yao Yuekong Jin Qishao, and the others all walked forward. They opened their divine eyes and sensed with their hearts. As for those old men, they quickly stuck close to the two of them, walking step by step. Their muddy old eyes all shot out divine light, sweeping away their senility, each of them full of vigor. As for the others, they stood at the edge of the island in complete silence and watched calmly. Tuoba Chang was the first to move. His entire right hand had turned crimson gold as he strode forward and pressed down on the dozen-odd stones that he had set his eyes on. The crimson gold divine hand gave him a divine sense that could see through everything. A faint golden luster appeared on the surface of his body, and he was connected to those stones. Everyone was shocked because at this moment, the strange stones all became transparent, and everything inside could be seen clearly. Everyone knew that origin stones were special. Even the most powerful cultivators were unable to sense what was contained within them, but origin techniques were miraculous and defied common sense. This is the doing of the Yuan Taoist master. In the past, it was rumored that once the heavenly master appeared, there were no secrets within the stone, and everything could be seen clearly. The Tuoba clan's wondrous arts are truly shocking. They actually have such methods to make the wondrous rock unable to escape. Tuoba Chang is indeed a genius. To have such achievements at such a young age, he might even become the 6th Yuan Taoist master of the northern region in the future. A group of old men exclaimed in admiration as if they had seen a peerless beauty. Their eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor, and they all had their own ideas. As for the others, they were also indescribably amazed. Many people had thoughts of roping him in. The northern region came from the origin, and such a person would definitely be an honored guest of the various great forces. In comparison, Yi Fan was very calm. He was like a cloud drifting gently through the flowers and trees, his crystalline fingers gently brushing past. There was no brilliance, nor was there any unusual phenomenon. There was only a natural feeling of clear spring water flowing above the stone. His entire person was very ethereal. Finally, Tuoba Chang stopped in front of the dragon head stone. His crimson gold right hand rested on it, connecting with it. Many people gasped when they saw this scene. It was obvious that the genius of the Tuoba clan had taken a fancy to this stone. His expression was especially solemn. A group of old men all gathered around. This stone had been displayed for many years and no one had dared to touch it. If it was cut open now, it would fulfill one of their wishes. And Miaoi's hair danced in the wind as she approached with light steps. The elegant Jianghu Fei also revealed a look of surprise as he moved forward to observe. Wondrous stones were the most difficult to cut. Even the Yuan Taoist master would frown at times, let alone the current world. Tuoba Chang's crimson gold divine hand tapped on the dragon head stone. It did not become transparent, and only a trace of draconic qi leaked out. Ding, ding, ding. Tuoba Chang's fingers continuously tapped a total of 365 times. Rays of divine radiance entered the dragon head stone. At the same time, his body was also dyed with a faint golden radiance. He actually connected with the millstone-sized dragon head stone and became one. He closed his eyes and placed his right hand on the dragon's head. Multicolored light flowed as if the hand of a god had come back to life. A treasure wheel appeared under his right hand. It's really a treasure wheel. It's colorful and brilliant. Whether it was the group of old men and Miaoi the great Xia prince, Jin Qishao, or the spectators outside the small island, everyone revealed a look of surprise. This is the Heaven Origin Treasure Wheel. It can imprint the secrets of the wondrous stone and understand what kind of treasures it contains. The geniuses of the Tuoba clan are really astonishing. They can even recreate such a method. I heard that this is a unique technique of the Yuan Taoist master. The expressions of the older generation who understood everything changed. The others were also moved after hearing about it. At this moment, Li Heishui's heart also jumped. The opponent's Genesis technique was so astonishing. It was really difficult to say who was stronger in a Genesis technique battle. Swoosh. Light flashed and the man in embroidered clothes, Tuoba Chang, retreated. The Heaven Origin treasure wheel stuck to his palm, and the light became even brighter. It was like a five-colored divine sun, so bright that people could not open their eyes. However, no one closed their eyes. They opened their divine eyes and shot out lightning rays to see what was imprinted on the Heaven Origin treasure wheel. Dragon, oh my god, there's a dragon. The Heaven-class sacred stone garden was in an uproar. Everyone cried out when they saw this scene. There's a dragon imprinted on the Heaven Origin treasure wheel. Is this real? There's a dragon inside the dragon head stone? The Heaven Origin treasure wheel flickered into Oba Chang's palm. There was a dragon shadow inside, shaking its head and wagging its tail, continuously swimming around. Vaguely, there was a kind of terrifying dragon might rushing out, making everyone dumbfounded. Everyone was stunned. This was like a fantasy. Could it be that a true dragon was about to be born? The expressions of the people of the Ji clan completely changed. They had looked for peerless experts to look at the wondrous stones in the garden. How could they have missed such a peerless treasure? Not to mention Jin Qishao, the little nun in white, Xianxia, and the others, even the older generation, were extremely excited. They all surrounded the stone. Many people from the major factions secretly sent voice transmissions to Tuoba Chang, offering heaven-grade prices to buy the stone. I've heard that true dragons are born from heaven and earth. Could it be that there's really a foot-long young dragon in the dragon head? No matter what, there must be a peerless treasure in the millstone-sized dragon head. It must be related to a true dragon. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. There were even some old men with frightening backgrounds who regretted looking at the stone in the past. They had seen it before, but in the end they gave it up. The faint golden light on Tuoba Chang's body slowly dimmed. The Heaven Origin treasure wheel in his hand disappeared. He lightly patted the dragon head stone and said, "I choose this stone." Now no one doubted his Genesis technique. He had displayed all kinds of methods, and he definitely had a trace of the Yuan Taoist master's style. Li Heishui cursed, "No wonder he is so arrogant. He really has a peerless Genesis technique. Now things are not looking good." Needless to say, Yi Fan already felt the pressure. The other party chose the dragon head stone and even used the Heaven Origin treasure wheel to reflect a true dragon. If it was a true dragon, no matter what rare treasure was cut out, it would not be comparable unless it was an immortal. Yi Fan expressionlessly walked around the stone garden. Choosing an ordinary stone was definitely not possible. He had to cut out a shocking divine object. Right now, there were still the Immortal Sound Stone, 8 trigrams Dao Diagram Stone, Peerless Beauty Stone, etc. He frowned and stood between the origin-suppressing stones in deep thought. A true dragon is like an immortal, not descending to the mortal world. It shouldn't be like this. Maybe it's something else. As long as I cut out a peerless treasure, I should be able to compete with it. Yi Fan stood in front of the 8 trigrams Dao Diagram Stone. He did not make a move and only walked around it a few times, constantly thinking. The 8 trigrams Dao Diagram Stone was very attractive. It was formed naturally. Looking at it, there was a feeling of the Tao flowing, and all methods returning to one. However, in the end, Yi Fan walked away. He came in front of the Peerless Beauty Stone, stroked it with his hand and then gently tapped it. His movements were very rhythmic. His fingers were light and agile, like a few sprites jumping, drawing out beautiful trajectories. "Little brother, you don't have a choice. I think you should choose these few treasures," an old man advised. "The genius of the Tuoba clan has chosen the dragon head stone. You can only choose from the stones of the same level." "That's right. If he really cuts out a young true dragon, you can only cut out a female sacred spirit king to be able to compete." Yi Fan had already calmed down. After thinking for a long time, he finally gave up on the Peerless Beauty Stone and walked to the side. "Can you choose it or not? Are you afraid?" Wu Ziming saw that Yi Fan had not chosen a stone and interrupted his thoughts. A country bumpkin wants to compete with the wondrous arts of a Genesis technique sacred land? You overestimate yourself, what a joke. You're a frog at the bottom of a well. How can you compare to Brother Tuoba? If such a person is also a Genesis technique genius, it will be an insult to Brother Tuoba. Li Chongtian also sneered. Li Heishui reprimanded, shut your beaks. You're interfering and seriously destroying the Genesis technique showdown. Wu Ziming mocked, he's already scared because he can't choose a stone. Are we not allowed to say anything? Li Chongtian also laughed impudently. Even if he cuts out a rare stone, it can't compare to Brother Tuoba's dragon head stone. I think he should just admit defeat and avoid having to spend an astronomical price to buy a stone. The smell of gunpowder was already thick in the air even before the stone was cut. Both sides had already begun arguing, and there were quite a few people in the surroundings who agreed. Tuoba Chang coldly said, don't say anything. Let him choose his stone. I want him to lose until he has no place to show his face. Yi Fan turned around and smiled. Everything is possible in the field of stone gambling and Genesis techniques. Even if you think you've seen a true dragon, it may just be an illusion. He came to the edge of the spirit spring and fished the immortal sound stone out of the water. With a gentle brush, the water dried up, and the greenish-brown stone looked natural under the sunlight. Yi Fan felt that this stone was the strangest. It didn't seem like a stone from a Genesis mine, but it gave him a special feeling. The crowd quietened down to the point where even a pin drop could be heard. They realized that Yi Fan's expression was extremely solemn. He was definitely going to use his Genesis technique. Suddenly, two beams of purple light shot out from Yi Fan's eyes and pierced through the stone. Heavens, this is the Heaven Origin Divine Sense. The Delusion Breaker Eye is a Heaven Origin technique that uses divine sense to see through everything in the stone. This is a heaven-defying technique. All the older generation figures were shocked. And Miaoi, the joyous prince, and the others were all emotional as they walked forward. Wu Ziming, Li Chongtian, and the others all shut their mouths after learning what the Heaven Origin Divine Sense was. Suddenly, the heavenly Tao melody rang out, making everyone feel intoxicated. It was as if a supreme great Tao was transmitted from the celestial world. The stone inexplicably let out a strange sound that resonated with Yi Fan's Heaven Origin Divine Sense. It resounded throughout the stone garden. It was like an indescribable scripture that was slowly being chanted, cleansing one's soul. At the center of the island, under that thick ancient tree, sparkling and translucent petals fluttered about. That godlike elder opened his eyes with a schwa sound, sweeping his gaze over. I choose this stone, Yi Fan said calmly. Chapter 345. The heavenly melody of the great Tao continued for a long time. The stone was simple and unadorned, causing people to be mesmerized. Yi Fan chose this stone. His voice was sonorous and powerful, resounding throughout the island. Many people were stunned. This stone actually emitted a Tao melody that was stimulated by the heavenly divine sense. It resounded throughout the heavens and earth, causing people to be indescribably amazed. Immediately, some of the major powers transmitted messages, wanting to purchase this stone at a sky-high price. This included the people from the various holy lands, all of them trying their best to rope in Yi Fan. Everyone present was shocked. This was indeed a battle of Genesis techniques. Both geniuses had chosen shocking stones. There will definitely be an extraordinary item cut out. There is actually a mysterious heavenly melody ringing. Could it be an ancient scripture? It is rumored that the supreme sovereign scripture of the Grand Xia Empire was cut out from this stone. The great Tao is boundless, lofty and profound, causing people to have the impulse to sink into it. Maybe it will be an immortal scripture. Everyone's expression changed. They were all filled with envy, paying close attention. Little brother, if you cut out something good, don't forget us, bunch of old men. A group of old men had fervent gazes, excitedly rubbing their hands. They deduced that a shocking item would most likely appear. If it really was an ancient scripture, it would cause a huge wave. The various holy lands wouldn't be able to sit still. If it wasn't for the old man with jade-like skin sitting cross-legged under the ancient tree in the center of the island, there would most likely be people fighting over these two stones. Cut the stone, quickly cut the stone. Many people shouted, hoping to immediately know what kind of peerless treasure would appear. The expressions of the Ji clan's people were incomparably ugly. These two stones were too precious. If they cut out a shocking treasure, it would truly make their hearts ache. After choosing such a stone, Li Heishui finally heaved a sigh of relief, feeling that it would most likely be comparable to the dragon head stone. Wu Ziming coldly laughed. What rare treasure can compare to a true dragon? Even if we cut out a rare divine item, we will inevitably lose it and give it to Brother Tuoba. That's right, this is equivalent to giving Brother Tuoba a big gift. Li Chongtian also coldly laughed. Cut the stone. Li Heishui ignored them and only spat out these two words. Now they could only cut the stone to determine the winner. At this moment, everyone was extremely nervous, all of them paying close attention, all of them waiting for the treasures within the Dragon Head Stone and Immortal Sound Stone to appear. After a short uproar, the island quickly calmed down. It was so quiet that even the sound of falling flowers could be heard clearly. You first. Yi Fan made an inviting gesture. The man in embroidered clothes, Tuoba Chang, didn't speak. He withdrew a 5-colored bee skin pouch, and there were over 10 sharp little knives of different shapes within it. The ancient clans were very particular about Genesis techniques. They used different sabers to cut different Genesis stones. Tuoba Chang took out a silver dragon saber and held it in his hand. Crack. The first blade descended and he chopped off the dragon horn. With a light stroke, it turned into stone powder and there was nothing inside. Kacha. The sounds did not stop, and Tuoba Chang continued to descend his blade. His movements were light and graceful, and it did not seem like he was wielding his blade. Instead, it seemed like he was dancing with his fingers. His technique was close to the Tao and it was filled with a kind of beauty. From all these details, it could be seen that Tuoba Chang's attainment in Genesis techniques was extremely high, and he seemed to be close to the Tao. The dragon scales danced in the air like flowers, and they fell to the ground with rustling sounds. A third of the huge dragon head had been cut off, and a thick layer of stone chips accumulated on the ground. At this moment it was extremely quiet. No one dared to disturb him and everyone held their breaths as they watched. Tuoba Chang was completely focused. The silver blade was like a dragon and the world was silent. Only he danced with the silver blade as if he was playing a piece of music. Time slowly passed. His movements became slower and gentler, as if he was afraid of breaking the piece and destroying the divine object in the dragon head. Everyone's nerves were stretched taut, and they were almost suffocating. Their eyes did not blink as they stared at the center of the square. The embroidered clothes Tuoba Chang had become the absolute focus. Ding! A clear sound echoed in everyone's ears like a dragon's roar. The silver blade floated in the air, and a mysterious aura spread out. Dragon Chi has rushed out. Many people widened their eyes. Wisps of dragon-shaped chi flowed out from the dragon head, and it was very strange. Hey brat, you're finished? This stone will definitely produce a divine object that will shock the world. Wu Ziming sneered and swept a glance at Li Heishui. Swish, swish, swish. Tuoba Chang moved his blade as if it was flying. He suddenly sped up and the rhythm increased. The stone chips were like snow fluttering in the air. Ding! When the last sound rang out, the millstone-sized dragon head stone was completely peeled off. Other than the stone powder on the ground, only a bowl-sized bead was left. It was dark green in color and there was no brilliance. However, there were wisps of dragon chi lingering around it, as if something had broken out of its shell. This is a dragon ball? Yes, it looks very much like a dragon ball, a treasure born from heaven and earth. There might be a true dragon inside. It's born from the harmony of heaven and earth. The small island immediately boiled up. Everyone looked excited, and only the Ji clan members did not smile, and their faces were solemn. Quick, we can't wait anymore. Quickly cut out the peerless treasure. I desperately want to see the birth of a young true dragon. Everyone urged. Even Great Xia's prince and the white-clothed little nun were no longer reserved, squeezing to the front. And Miaoi Jin Qishao and the others also did the same. Tuoba Chang held the dragon ball in his hand and did not continue cutting. He turned back to look at Yi Fan and said, "It's your turn." Yi Fan did not say anything superfluous. Light flashed in his hand, and an inch-long small black sword appeared between his fingers. That's the black dragon pattern golden sword. It's the Holy Spirit sword cut out from the 9-orifice stone golem. Everyone was dumbfounded. This was too extravagant. Yi Fan wanted this Holy Spirit sword to cut the stone. Many people were completely speechless. Wu Ziming sneered, "What's there to show off? When the time comes he won't be able to cut out anything. I'm waiting to see his face turn into a vegetable." The black dragon pattern golden Holy Spirit sword was as translucent as black jade. It was naturally formed. Yi Fan held it between his fingers and continuously moved it on the Immortal Sound Stone. The stone skin quickly fell off. He used this sword to cut the stone in case of accidents. Last time, it was very dangerous to cut the 9-orifice stone golem. If he did not retreat in time, he would have been pierced. Purple light flashed in Yi Fan's eyes, turning into 2 beams of light that landed on the Immortal Sound Stone. The black dragon pattern golden Holy Spirit sword moved with the 2 beams of purple light and quickly slashed. A melodious sound suddenly came from the stone. Everyone was looking forward to seeing what exactly was inside. Yi Fan's movements were very light and also had a sense of beauty. It was as if a living piece was beating. The black dragon pattern golden Holy Spirit sword turned into a black dragon that danced in the air. What exactly is it? Can it compare to the Dragon Ball? Could it really be an ancient scripture? Silence. There was no noise. The island was exceptionally quiet. No one knew when, but the guardian of the sacred stone garden, that old man propped up a screen of light, as if he was afraid that some rare treasure would escape. Ding dong. A sweet-sounding sound rang out. Yi Fan fiercely shook the small black sword. Stone fragments flew everywhere, and the Immortal Sound Stone was completely cut open. A jade cocoon the size of a fist appeared. It was sparkling and shining, and no one knew what was inside. Another cocoon. Last time, the small black cocoon produced the Holy Spirit sword. What will it be this time? Suddenly, a wonderful sound rang out. It was not the heavenly sound of the great Tao, but rather an intoxicating immortal music that made people's minds want to sink. Only when Yi Fan grabbed the jade cocoon in his hand did the immortal music stop. Only then did heaven and earth calm down. Outside the stage, cries of alarm sounded. Just now, many people had actually lost control of their minds. At this moment, everyone had a tacit understanding. The younger generation all retreated, and a group of old men stepped forward, ready to take action at any time. That was because it was very likely that something unusual would appear. In order to prevent accidents, the older generation prepared to work together to suppress it. You first. Yi Fan indicated. Tuoba Chang did not say anything else. He carefully used the silver blade to cut towards the Dragon Ball, and the dark green stone bead cracked open. Hong. A powerful aura rushed out, causing people's hearts to tremble. The draconic might was terrifying. Dragon, I saw a dragon. A true dragon flew out. Many people cried out, all of them incomparably shocked. They stared at the scene, almost forgetting to breathe. A dragon over 1/2 meter long rushed out from the stone bead and danced in the air. The draconic might overflowed in all directions. It was extremely astonishing. No, it's formed from draconic chi, not a true dragon. When things calmed down, people clearly saw that the little dragon was not a true body. The dragon bead was already broken and there was nothing inside. Disappointment was written all over Tuoba Chang's face. What a pity there's only a strand of draconic chi, nothing else. This is only a strand of essence chi born from heaven and earth, and it has the shape of a dragon. It's not a true dragon's chi. Many people shook their heads. It was far from what they had expected. The difference was too great. Many people sighed. Why is it like this? Wu Ziming clenched his fists. Li Chongtian was also extremely disappointed and he stamped his feet. Haha. Only Li Heishui shook his head and laughed, causing the faces of Wu Ziming and the others to turn ashen. A true dragon does not descend into the world. What a pity for this stone bead. It is impossible for a true dragon to be born in this world. If there is a celestial world, without a doubt, when the time comes, this bead will definitely turn into a true dragon. The old man from Ji family who was guarding the stone garden said these words, and then he stopped talking. The draconic chi was about to scatter and disappear from heaven and earth. Great Xia's prince charged over and said excitedly, I want this draconic chi, 5,000 kilograms of source. He raised his hand and sealed the space, restraining the draconic chi. Everyone revealed a weird expression. The chivalrous dynasty had inherited the supreme imperial scripture, and within it was an offensive saint technique, imperial draconic chi. To cultivate this technique, apart from one's own talent, there were also some secret techniques. This draconic chi would be of great benefit to him. Tuoba Chang nodded and didn't speak. He spent 50,000 kilograms of source to buy the dragon head stone, but he didn't get a peerless treasure. This was a huge blow to him. The heavenly source treasure will reflected the true dragon in the stone, and in the end it was just like what Yi Fan had said, it was just a dream. There was no expression on Tuoba Chang's face. When it was Yi Fan's turn to cut the jade cocoon, he didn't hesitate and retreated. He waved the small black sword and with a clang he cut open the jade disc. Ding dong! Celestial music rang out and a dazzling radiance appeared. The center of the field was resplendent, and it caused people's hearts to sway. It was as if there was a demonic power that caused people to sink into depravity. "This is immortal melody, what a pity?" An old voice filled with regret said, but almost no one heard it. Chapter 346. After the jade cocoon was cut open, an object was revealed that shot out dazzling 9-colored light. It was only the size of a chicken egg and perfectly round. There were 9 holes on its surface that cried out when the wind blew. This type of music was extremely wondrous, making one couldn't help but become intoxicated. They really wanted to hold it in their hands and listen carefully. There was a type of demonic power to it. Its entire body was sparkling with 9 different colors. It was exceptionally beautiful and dazzling, as if it was the world's most precious treasure. At the center of the island, the deity-like elder under the ancient tree shook his head and said, "What a pity, it was born in the secular world." "Senior, may I ask what this is?" Many people asked. They didn't understand at all, and even those old men didn't know. They looked towards the protector of Ji family's sacred stone garden. "This is an immortal melody. If there is immortal energy to nourish it, one can carve a portion of the Tao imprint. It is an immortal book born from heaven and earth." Ji family's elder shook his head and said, "In this world it is unknown whether or not there are immortals, so how could one find immortal energy to nourish it? In the end, it is only a treasure within a musical instrument. It has nothing to do with cultivation. It's actually an immortal melody. I've heard of it before." A few old men cried out in alarm. It was indeed as the protector of Ji family's stone garden said. This object was born in the secular world. If it was born in the immortal realm, after being nourished by immortal energy, it would become a heavenly book, engraving a portion of the heaven and earth's patterns. Now, it only produced great Tao divine sounds when it was about to appear. However, it stopped there. Without immortal energy it would never appear again. What a pity, or else this really would be an ancient scripture. It might even be a world-shocking immortal scripture. Why is it like this? It was born in the secular world. There was no one who didn't feel regret. Otherwise this would be a heavenly Tao immortal book, a great opportunity. Yi Fan held the immortal melody in his palm. It was sparkling and warm, flickering with 9-colored splendor. If it was given to a mortal emperor, it would definitely be a national treasure. However, it was useless to cultivators. The immortal melody he cut out was the same as the strand of draconic energy in the stone bead. It was of little value and didn't have much use. It could only be considered a rare object. Tuoba Chang used 100,000 kilograms to cut the dragon head stone, and he used 80,000 kilograms to cut the immortal sound stone. Little brother Gu Feng, Miaoi is very interested in the immortal melody. "Don't give it to others, you must keep it for Miaoi." And Miaoi secretly transmitted her voice. This was how rock gambling was. Even if one's Genesis techniques were astonishing, it was still possible for one to be deceived when encountering a rock. Everyone sighed in their hearts. If even these 2 Genesis technique geniuses had made such a mistake and spent such an astronomical sum for no reason, one could imagine what the others would think. The Holy Land's sky-high price strange stones bring them a lot of profit every year. They have always earned it steadily and never lost money. If they could cut out rare treasures, the Dragon Head Stone and Immortal Sound Stone wouldn't have been left here for so many years. Many people shivered and warned their friends around them. The Holy Land established the stone workshop to maximize the benefits. If they had the slightest confidence, these strange stones wouldn't have been sent here. The great sage's land doesn't lack stone masters. At this moment, both Yi Fan and Tuoba Chang were very calm. Moreover, they reacted quickly and charged toward the other guardian treasures. Yi Fan arrived in front of the Peerless Beauty Stone in a dozen steps, while Tuoba Chang rushed to the 8 trigrams Tao diagram stone. "I choose this stone." Yi Fan directly threw out 150,000 kilograms of Genesis and bought the stone. "I don't have any more Genesis on me, but as the #1 successor of the Tuoba clan, I will write a contract here. I will definitely send the Genesis over in a few days." Tuoba Chang had just spent 100,000 kilograms of Genesis and was now empty. Everyone was dumbfounded, not knowing why these two were doing this. It was as if they wanted to snatch the stone. That's right, they seemed to be fighting over a peerless sacred object. Strange stone, peerless beauty. It was over 2 meters tall and silently stood beside the flowering tree. The falling flowers gave it an ethereal feeling. It was worth 150,000 kilograms of Genesis. Strange stone, 8 trigrams Tao diagram. It was as big as a table and looked simple and natural. The Tao imprint seemed to be embedded in the stone. It was worth 120,000 kilograms of Genesis. Are they crazy? Why are they snatching stones after cutting nothing? Everyone didn't understand. Only the people of the Ji clan were calm. If they cut a few more stones, their profits would be even greater. The two quickly started to cut the stone. Their blades flew and the stone chips danced in the air like snowflakes. This old man's horizons have been broadened. A few of the garden's greatest treasures will be cut open in my lifetime, fulfilling one of my wishes. Facing the peerless beauty stone, Yi Fan wasn't gentle at all. He slashed with the black gold dragon mark sword as if he was fighting for time. If there was a rare treasure inside, this speed was already the fastest under the premise of not injuring it. Almost in a moment, the huge strange stone was cut open. Unfortunately, the peerless beauty stone was empty. This time there wasn't even a chicken rib. There was nothing. At the same time, Tuoba Chang also completely peeled the 8 trigrams Dao diagram stone. Other than leaving behind a pile of stone powder, there was nothing. In an instant, the two were as fast as lightning as they pounced towards the other stones. There were still 5 gardens' greatest treasures. Their target was obvious. They quickly rushed over and each took one. The stone Yi Fan chose was called Immortal Pot. It was over a meter tall and shaped like a gourd. Some people speculated that there might be gourd seeds inside. It was a peerless treasure worth 50,000 kilograms of genesis. The stone Tuoba Chang chose was shaped like a male tiger that wanted to break through the sky. It was called White Tiger Ascension and was worth 120,000 kilograms of genesis. Little Yi, are you crazy? Li Heishui didn't understand and secretly transmitted his voice. This was too crazy. Just now, the Immortal Sound Stone and the Peerless Beauty Sure had paid a total of 230,000 kilograms of genesis, but in the end, it was all for naught. And now Yi Fan didn't seem to care at all. He threw out another 50,000 kilograms of genesis as if he was under a spell and didn't care about the consequences. It's not that I'm crazy, it's just that there's a crazy stone here that definitely contains a peerless treasure. If it's cut out, everything will be worth it. Yi Fan replied. Brother Tuoba, what's wrong? Wu Ziming and Li Chongtian also asked. However, the genius of the Tuoba clan didn't care at all. After carving his debt on the stone again, he quickly began to cut the stone. The Ji clan was naturally not afraid that he would renege on his debt. In the current world, no one dared to extort the Ji clan, not even ancient Genesis technique families. What's going on? Li Heishui didn't understand. Yi Fan had already spent 330,000 kilograms of genesis and was rapidly cutting the Immortal Pot, making everyone feel crazy. I can't explain it now. I'll explain it later. He and Tuoba Chang both sensed that there was something strange about this place. There was definitely a stone that could make people crazy. Their Genesis techniques were exquisite and had a trace of the Yuan Taoist master's elegance. Whether it was the Heavenly Source Treasure Wheel or the Heavenly Source Divine Sense, they were close to the Tao. However, they had been deceived. A strange aura had interfered with their judgment. It was extraordinary. The two immediately thought of a situation mentioned in an ancient Genesis technique book. This place definitely contained an astonishing treasure. Whether it was the Tuoba clan's treasure book or the peerless Genesis book left behind by the Yuan Taoist master, they both had clear records. A peerless spiritual treasure that could interfere with a Genesis technique master's judgment, making them cut the wrong stone to protect themselves. This was the legendary Stone King. It must have given birth to an unimaginable divine object. One of them had cultivated the Heavenly Source Divine Sense, while the other had cultivated the Heavenly Source Treasure Wheel. Their unimaginable sharpness allowed them to sense the abnormality and capture the strange aura. If they could cut out such a spiritual treasure, they would be able to recoup all their expenses. Thus, they cut the stone that was most likely to contain a divine object. Now, it was no longer just a battle between Yi Fan and Tuoba Chang. They were also fighting with a peerless stone. Crazy, they've really gone crazy. Everyone was tongue-tied. The two had already spent more than 300,000 kilograms of genesis, but they didn't care at all. It seemed like they wanted to continue. The prince of the great Xia Jianghu Fei, and the others were from immortal empires and eternal families. They were also shocked when they saw this scene. Even they couldn't afford to pay such a price. And Miaoi's beautiful eyes flashed. She smiled faintly and said, "This is indeed a Genesis technique battle that will shake the entire divine city. This is too shocking." Even the quietest little nun in white was blinking her big eyes, full of puzzlement. There's a Stone King here? Some old men were very sensitive and immediately guessed this possibility. Heavens, if there's a Stone King, it's not impossible to cut out an ancient scripture, an emperor's divine object, or a young true dragon. The group of old men's expressions changed. They immediately scattered and searched everywhere as if they wanted to join in. After the Celestial Lake and the White Tiger Ascension were cut open, they were still empty. There was nothing inside. Everyone was shocked. The stone square of the sacred ground was indeed a deep pit. It was very difficult to get out after jumping in. One would sink deeper and deeper without being able to cut out anything. Little Yi, don't be crazy. You are still choosing stones? Even Li Heishui was shocked. Yi Fan threw another 120,000 kilograms of source stone on the ground. It was sparkling like a small mountain. He began to choose stones again. There were still 3 Garden Guardian treasures left. They were all priced at 120,000 kilograms of source stone. This time he didn't act immediately but chose patiently. Tuoba-chan was also crazy. He carved the price on a limestone slab and quickly rushed over to choose a stone. This is crazy, he's really crazy. I haven't gambled like this in many years. Throwing out hundreds of thousands of kilograms of source stone, it's really frightening. Everyone was shocked. All of this was too crazy. Everyone was flabbergasted. At this moment, Yi Fan had spent a total of 450,000 kilograms of source stone. He didn't even frown. In the end, Tuoba-chan chose a stone. It was one of the extremely expensive stones called Divine Moon. This stone was like a crescent moon. It was very special. It was more than 2 meters long and had a sparkling luster. The stone material was very smooth and smooth. It was a rare source stone material. Under the sunlight, it flowed with radiance like a divine moon. Tuoba-chan quickly cut down without any delay. The stone skin fell off and the jade-like stone skin flew in all directions. This extremely expensive stone named Divine Moon continuously shrunk. Suddenly, a divine radiance rushed into the sky and illuminated the entire island. The light blue lake became sparkling. The radiance was resplendent and a divine aura rushed into the sky. Everyone's pores opened up and they felt comfortable as if they were being embraced by immortal spirit energy. What is this? A divine item came out. At this moment, the small island was in an uproar. Everyone found it hard to calm down and went crazy. This thing was too astonishing. Just a strand of divine radiance from the crack in the stone was already like this. It was easy to imagine that it was a peerless treasure. Tuoba-chan was incomparably excited. He slowed down the speed of his blade and was very careful in case he cut something. A head-sized stone ball was cut out. Rays of divine radiance shot out from the crack. The thin layer of stone skin could no longer block the divine radiance contained within. This stone ball actually floated in the air and didn't sink at all. Heavens, divine source, it's actually divine source. That's right, divine source, it's the size of a human head. Even the older generation was in an uproar. This kind of divine item was rarely seen in the world. All the Holy Lands yearned for it. The most conservative estimate is that its value is definitely above 500,000 kilograms of divine source. When an old man said such a value, everyone sucked in a cold breath. This was divine source. The size of a human head was comparable to a mountain of ordinary pure divine source. Tuoba-chan didn't peel off that thin layer of rock because he was afraid that he would be blinded. Even so, the dozens of beams of light that were shot out were enough to illuminate the entire island. Even the blue lake water was sparkling with brilliance. Ha ha ha. He couldn't help but laugh. The appearance of divine source was something that hadn't appeared in the sacred city for many years. This was definitely sensational news. Hey brat, let's see how you turn things around. You want to compete with the Genesis technique aristocratic families? Li Zhongtian laughed loudly. Don't even think about it in this lifetime. What can they use to compete with such a piece of divine source? Wu Ziming also said sarcastically, I've been looking forward to seeing your faces turn green for a long time. Finally, it's time to see your faces turn green. Everyone went crazy. They were all shouting and discussing. The divine source was too shocking. Li Heishui was also in a daze. He didn't have any temper at all. The appearance of the divine source stunned him. At this moment, only Yi Fan was still calm. He said, in this world, divine source isn't the most precious thing. There are even more sacred things and precious stones. Hearing him say this, and Miaoyi the Xia prince, Jiang Yifei the little nun, and the others all looked over. The older generation figures also turned around. Even more people shook their heads. Some were sympathetic and some were gloating. Such a piece of divine source had been cut out. To turn things around was definitely more difficult than reaching the heavens. Wu Ziming laughed presumptuously. Then cut out a sacred object for me to see. Alright, I'll try today. Maybe I can really cut out something even more precious, Yi Fan said calmly. Once he said this, the stone garden quieted down. Everyone's gaze was focused on him. And Miaoyi's beautiful eyes turned in astonishment. The little nun in white blinked her big eyes and opened her mouth wide. She looked like a cute swallow as she stared at him in shock. Even Jin Qishao, the saint child of all beginnings, and Yao Yuekong, who had strong wills, revealed an indescribable expression. Ha! You won't shed tears until you see the coffin. You're already at this stage and you still want a miracle. I think you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Li Chongtian laughed. Can you really cut out something even more precious? Someone muttered. Almost no one believed it. Divine source was too precious. Everyone present thought that a miracle was almost impossible. At this moment, the news of the divine source's appearance spread like wildfire. It shook the entire divine city and more people rushed over. Yifan was very calm. He was seriously hammering on a priceless stone. Even at this stage he was still unperturbed. Little Yi, you must cut out a shocking treasure. Otherwise we'll be in trouble. Li Heishui secretly transmitted. We'll wait for you. Let's see how you'll shed tears when you see the coffin. Wu Ziming mocked and laughed loudly. Yifan heard this and stood up. If that's the case, why don't you join in and gamble with me? Then he looked around and said, of course, if there's anyone else who's willing, there's no harm in joining in. I don't believe that you can still turn the tables at this stage. Chapter 347. I don't believe that you can still turn the tables at this point. Wu Ziming sneered. Not to mention him, even the others didn't believe that a miracle could happen. What was divine source? It was the most precious of all sources. It was formed from the world's most primordial essence, and even the Holy Lands desired it. The divine city hadn't been cut out for many years. This piece was the size of a human head and was priceless. Who could turn the tables in such a situation? What else was more precious than it? It was almost impossible. Today I will bet with you even if I have to sell everything I have. Wu Ziming sneered. Not long ago he lost several tens of thousands of kilograms of source to Yifan. Now he finally had the chance to take revenge, so he borrowed source from Li Chongtian. Their connections were quite broad and they knew quite a few people. More importantly, their sects were great sects in the North region. Five Elements Palace and Illusion Destruction Palace were quite famous, and they both had older generation figures here. The two of them had gathered quite a bit of resources. Not only were these two moved, but the others also found it hard to stay calm. Since Yifan had already spoken, many people were eager to try. The head-sized piece of divine source had already appeared. Not many people believed that Yifan could turn the tables. This was almost impossible. This kind of divine item was rarely seen in the world. We will also bet with you. More than 20 cultivators joined hands and collected 15,000 kilograms of source. They walked forward in large strides and piled up on the ground. At this time, Wu Ziming and Li Chongtian also collected enough source. Because of the support of the sect elders, they collected a total of 15,000 kilograms of source. I have waited for this day for a long time. Wu Ziming gritted his teeth. Not only did he lose so many origin stones in the previous defeat, but he was also humiliated and ridiculed. Today there was such an opportunity. He felt that it was a heaven-sent opportunity. Is there anyone else? From beginning to end, Yifan was very calm. After standing up in front of the stone, he walked forward and asked a few more questions to see if anyone else wanted to bet. He is too calm and collected. Doesn't he know the value of the source of God? It's such a big piece. Unless there's a complete primordial godly medicine, there's no way it can compare to it. Many people wanted to join in, but when they saw how calm and composed Yifan was, without the slightest hint of dejection, they all began to mutter. Everyone couldn't help but think back to the last time when the 9-hold stone golem had been cut in half. They all thought that there wouldn't be anything left, but in the end Yifan had dug a hole for them to jump into. Even though many people were confident in the divine origin, they still hesitated. They were afraid that it would be like last time, that Yifan would hold back. Is there really no one else? That is divine source. Do you not have confidence in Tuoba Chang? Yifan asked again. He walked far away, allowing the falling petals to land on his body. The flowering trees swayed, and the fragrance assailed his nostrils. Yifan walked under the ancient tree, and was already quite a distance away from the two stones. Suddenly, two figures walked into the field and quickly arrived in front of the stone that Yifan had just carefully hammered and almost confirmed. Our hands are itchy, let's choose a stone too. The two chose the strange stone that Yifan had just examined, and piled 120 kilograms of source on the ground. These were two old men. They had been in the stone garden all along and they weren't far away. Thus they quickly came over. One of them was Illusion Palace's Grand Elder Li Yishui. Previously, he was the one who instigated and lent Li Chongtian and the others tens of thousands of kilograms of source to bet with Yi Fan. Today he didn't act rashly. He had been observing and made this move at the crucial moment. You. Li Heishui's expression immediately changed. He was confident in Yi Fan, and felt that he could definitely pick out a peerless treasure. However, he never would have thought that Li Yishui would do something like this, and compete with another old man of great background for source halfway. This was definitely intentional. It was almost shameless taking advantage of such a loophole to buy that stone. Do you have any questions? Li Yishui smiled faintly as if he didn't care. Do you have any shame? Li Heishui pointed at them angrily and finally couldn't help but scold. Li Yishui's face immediately darkened and he said, "Young man, don't be rude. Otherwise, I will discipline you on behalf of your elders." You are really... Li Heishui was so angry that he wanted to curse. If he didn't spit on their faces, he wouldn't be able to swallow this anger. Yi Fan hurriedly went forward to stop him, then turned around to face Li Yishui and said with a sullen face, "You too, aren't you going too far?" Li Yishui indifferently said, "Oh? How is it too far? Are you talking about choosing the stone? Just now you didn't choose and now we are buying this stone." "Old man, didn't you see Gu Feng knocking and observing just now? He clearly chose that stone." Li Heishui wanted to beat these two up. "He didn't choose in the end, didn't he walk away?" Li Yishui replied with a smile that wasn't a smile. At this moment, the stone garden was in an uproar. There were sounds of discussion everywhere. Some were envious, some were cursing, some were sympathizing, and some were gloating. These two old fogies are really shrewd. It's really unexpected that they would make such a decisive decision. Too despicable, too shameless. How can they do this? Indeed, old people become crafty. To think that they would make such a move. But it really isn't right. Why didn't I think of this? That Genesis technique genius is too inexperienced, allowing such a loophole to be taken advantage of. The crowd outside was in an uproar, unable to calm down. There were those who hated, those who mocked, and those who wanted to beat Yi Fan up. Everyone acknowledged Yi Fan's Genesis technique, and felt that the stone he had chosen would most likely contain a peerless treasure given the confidence he had displayed earlier. Although many felt that it would be very difficult to compare to the divine Genesis, everyone believed that it would contain a valuable treasure. "Don't stop me, I won't be able to vent my anger if I don't beat them up." Li Heishui was truly enraged. He wanted to throw the black metal token at the two in front of him. "You talk big at such a young age. Didn't your parents teach you to respect your elders?" Li Yishui's face darkened as he sneered, killing intent flashing in his eyes. "Snatching our wondrous stone and wanting to kill us." Li Heishui wanted to throw the black metal token and beat them up. However, Yi Fan firmly held him back, not letting him go forward. Li Heishui calmed down and did not act rashly. He turned to face the Ji family and said, "We have already paid 120 kilograms of Genesis source. Are you not going to do anything to them?" Master Yuan of the Ji family revealed a troubled expression and said, "Although you have paid Genesis source, it is only for a few of the garden's treasures. You have not chosen which stone to use." Ji Bue was dressed in green, revealing her curvaceous figure and bare feet. She leisurely walked forward and said with a faint smile, "Little brothers, there is really no other way. You can only blame yourself for not deciding earlier." Since the Ji family had already said so, there was no way to change it. This made Li Heishui furious. Yao Yuekong came forward and advised Li Heishui, "Forget it." The great Xia prince shook his head and also transmitted his voice, "You are too careless." Some people felt that Li Yishui's actions were shameful, but they could only discuss and curse him. They could not change anything. This was the Heavenstone Garden of the Ji family, everything had to be done according to the rules. Some of the older generation could not stand it anymore, but they could not say anything. The small island was filled with splendor. That head-sized divine source floated in the air and did not sink down. Dozens of divine radiance shot out from the rock, dyeing the ancient trees and the dancing petals in the air with divine radiance. Li Yishui looked at Yi Fan and Li Heishui calmly and said, "Young people, this world is fair and unfair. There are many things that you need to learn. Not showing off after getting a bargain, you guys are good." Li Heishui pointed at the two people in front of him. Li Yishui was unperturbed and said calmly, "This old man and brother Yang Kuan borrowed some resources from some old friends. Other than wanting to buy a priceless strange stone, we also want to make a bet with you." "That's right." The old man called Yang Kuan was the supreme elder of Five Elements Palace. He immediately piled 60,000 kilograms of God Source on the ground. This move was too ruthless. They had just stolen someone else's stone and now they wanted to make a bet. They were ruthless and wanted to kill them all. Aren't you guys too much? Yi Fan's face darkened. Words spoken are water spilled. You are the one who said that you want to make a bet with everyone here. Li Yishui said with a smile that was not a smile. Although many people felt that it was too much, they could not say anything. It was obvious that both sides had grudges. The two youths were tricked and they could only admit defeat. Li Yishui was furious. The other party was too much, using any means necessary. He could not help but explode. Old man, you want to use force to suppress us? You are not strong enough. Oh, then what can you do? Jianghu asked. Li Yishui was very indifferent. He casually said, I'm quite interested in the dragon-patterned black gold Holy Spirit sword. I think it's worth 50,000 kilograms of origin source. Why don't I borrow some origin source from a few of my old friends? When the time comes, you can use the Holy Spirit sword to repay your debt. Yao Yuekong and Miaoyi and the others had predicted that the black gold Holy Spirit sword was worth 35 kilograms of God source. Li Yishui's words were obviously malicious and he wanted to steal the sword at a low price. Dream on. Li Yishui was furious. Don't worry, let him go. At the crucial moment, Yi Fan secretly transmitted his voice and pulled him back. Little Yi Yu. Li Yishui turned around and looked at him. Then he seemed to have thought of something. He suppressed his emotions and slowly calmed down. I only borrowed 20,000 kilograms of God source. That's it, a total of 80,000 kilograms. I will make a bet with you. Li Yishui revealed a faint smile and said, I am very fond of the black gold Holy Spirit sword. Okay, I accept. You can cut the stones first. Speaking up to this point, Yi Fan asked loudly, does anyone else want to participate? Yao Yuekong transmitted his voice and advised, Brother, do you really want to bet? Just admit defeat this time. There is no need to be impulsive. The great Xia Prince also advised. At this moment, everyone turned to look at him. Jiang Yifei's robe was whiter than snow. His expression was calm, elegant, and handsome. And Miaoyi's eyes were filled with spiritual energy. She quietly watched. Jin Qixiao's expression was solemn and he did not move. Even more of the older generation remained silent as they watched the scene unfold before them. If that is the case, let us also give it a try. More than 10 people came forward and together, they gathered a total of 18,000 kilograms of God source, which were sparkling and glittering. Although there were still many people who were tempted, they resisted the impulse. Firstly, they felt that it was not right to add insult to injury. Secondly, seeing Yi Fan take the initiative to invite them, he was too calm. Okay, since there is no more, it is limited to the few of us. Yi Fan revealed a smile. The first batch consisted of more than 20 people, and they gathered 15,000 kilograms of God source. Wu Ziming and Li Zhongtian gathered 15,000 kilograms of God source. Li Yishui and Yang Kuan gathered 80,000 kilograms of God source for the bet. The last batch of people gathered a total of 18,000 kilograms of God source. The sum of these people's God source was a total of 143,000 kilograms. At this moment, Li Yishui's expression changed, because he saw Yi Fan actually smiling at him. His delicate face, his mouth full of snow-white teeth, was very bright. His heart immediately sank. His head rumbled and he shouted in his heart, oh no. He might have been tricked by this harmless-looking little bastard again. Senior Li, aren't you going to cut the stone? Let us all broaden our horizons. Yi Fan said with a smile. Everyone was startled. Their gazes all turned to look at Yi Fan, Li Yishui, and the sky-high strange stone. Li Yishui was completely relieved and he almost laughed out loud. He mumbled, Yi-hey, this is really a technical job. Tricking people is also a kind of art. Chapter 348. Everyone inside and outside the Heaven Series Stone Garden looked over. Yi Fan and Li Yishui became the center of attention. Everyone was shocked. At this moment, Li Yishui should have been very satisfied, but he had a gloomy expression, clearly in a bad mood. Meanwhile, Yi Fan, whose stone had been stolen, had a radiant expression, his teeth gleaming. He could only be described as happy. As for the black brat beside him, no matter how one looked at it, he was holding back his laughter. He was like a wolf, his mouth almost reaching his ears. It's over. Li Yishui must have been cheated. It can't be. He was very ruthless just now. How could he have been cheated? Don't you see how meaningful those two brats' smiles are? It's like a weasel looking at a little chick. Everyone's attention was focused on the two of them and the heaven-rank wondrous stone. Li Yishui could no longer remain calm. His previous indifference was swept away, and his expression turned gloomy. At the side, Jianghu also had a gloomy expression as he looked down at the strange stone on the ground. This stone was called Levitating Flying Immortal. It was 1 meter long and did not have any special shape. It was very irregular, but there were many patterns on it that looked like feathers. The Levitating Flying Immortal stone lay under a 1,000-year-old ancient tree. Many cultivators had seen it before, but no one dared to cut it. It was worth 150 kilograms of spring. This is a rare precious stone. It has the aura of the absolute beginning. It's definitely a stone from an old pit, Yi Fan commented with a smile. Li Yishui's expression turned even more gloomy. He silently took out a silver knife and started to cut the stone. His movements were very slow. After all, this was an extremely valuable stone, and he was afraid of damaging it. You're wrong, Senior Li. When cutting this kind of levitating flying immortal stone, you have to go against the patterns like peeling off a scale. You have to peel it up bit by bit. Yi Fan seriously guided him from the side. The veins on Li Yishui's forehead bulged as he said, "There's no need for you to tell me." At the side, Yang Kuan also snorted heavily, revealing an extremely impatient expression. But at this moment, Li Yishui used too much force, and the levitating flying immortal stone cracked. Yang Kuan immediately jumped in fright and said, "Be careful." Even though they guessed that they might have been cheated, they still couldn't help but be careful when buying the stones that cost 120,000 gene of origin source. Cut along the lines. Don't use brute force. Go with the flow. Yi Fan began to guide him again. Even though Li Yishui's veins were bulging, he didn't say anything else. He had never cut this kind of ascension stone before. If he was careless, it might really crack. That's right. Be a little gentler when you use your blade. The blade's momentum has to be light. Yi Fan smiled as he instructed. However, Li Yishui and Yang Kuan felt as though they had been slapped in the face. Their faces were even longer than the Black Emperor's, and they wished they could slash him with their blades. However, the angrier they were, the more mistakes they made in cutting the stone. Gotcha. Another large piece of the levitating flying immortal stone cracked and fell to the ground. However, nothing was cut out of this part. Li Yishui's and Yang Kuan's faces were covered in sweat. 120,000 kilograms of source power was gambling on this rock. Other than their own reserves, they had also borrowed source power from other people. If this was a waste, just the thought of it made them vomit blood. They were asking for it. Kacha kacha. Stone powder fell down. The levitating flying immortal stone became smaller and smaller, but there was still nothing. Sweat drenched Li Yishui's back. Even though Yang Kuan didn't make a move, he didn't feel good in his heart either. Even if it wasn't 100 claws scratching at his heart, it was close. Li Yishui opened his mouth wide and laughed silently. Not to mention Yang Kuan and Li Yishui, even Wu Ziming and Li Chongtian felt bad. Kacha. When the levitating flying immortal stone was only the size of a palm, Li Yishui and Yang Kuan's faces turned completely white. It was obvious that this stone was a rare treasure. When they raised their heads, they noticed that Li Yishui was calm and unruffled. He was using the dragon-striped black gold Saint Spirit sword to trim his nails. Their faces instantly turned from white to green and then purple. This was truly infuriating. If it wasn't for the fact that they were in Ji Clan's stone workshop, they really wanted to kill someone. Kacha. Li Yishui forcefully threw the palm-sized stone to the ground. It broke into pieces, but no rare treasure appeared. His face turned green as he stood up. At this moment he felt that the world was spinning and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. 120,000 kilograms of spring water was wasted and nothing was cut out. They were obviously tricked. There was only one word to describe how miserable it was. There was no second time in one's life. You. Li Yishui was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He pointed at Yi Fan and Wu Ziming in anger. What do you mean you stole our stone? You can't cut out anything valuable and you want to blame us? Li Yishui laughed loudly. Li Yishui and Yang Kuan's vision turned black. They were so angry that they almost fainted. This loss was too great. They used all their schemes to steal other people's wondrous stone, but in the end they suffered the consequences of their own actions. They couldn't blame others at all. Even so, the two of them were emitting smoke from their 7 orifices. Their hair was about to ignite and they wanted to roar towards the sky. These two old bastards are so pitiful. They were tricked and jumped into the pit themselves. They can't even vent their anger. Outside the stone garden, everyone was discussing. Many people couldn't help but mock and laugh loudly. They asked for it. Just now they were so shrewd and stole the other party's source, yet they ended up like this. That youngster really is something, digging such a big pit and waiting for people to jump in. Who would have thought of this? It's all because of greed. This is a technical job. It can definitely be considered an art. Li Heishui's words had a double meaning. Haha. Many people couldn't help but laugh loudly. Li Yishui and Yang Kuan wanted to vomit blood. They were tricked in such an artistic way and even ridiculed. No one could take this. Yi Fan walked over to the other extremely expensive wondrous stone. He lightly patted it and said, "Actually, this one isn't bad either. I like it more." Everyone laughed loudly again. Li Yishui wanted to beat him up. How could he endure these words? Yang Kuan even more so swung his sleeves and walked out of the stone garden angrily. "Have you chosen the stone?" Tuoba Chang asked coldly. Beside him, that head-sized divine source floated quietly. Divine radiance shot out in all directions. It was exceptionally dazzling. Even the stone surface could not hide its divine splendor. "I have," Yi Fan answered. Unexpectedly, he didn't touch the last heaven-level wondrous stone. Instead, he moved out a stone beside the levitating flying immortal stone. This stone was very ordinary, about the size of a roller. There was nothing special about it. It was completely dark green in color and shaped like a stone block. The heaven-level stone garden was filled with precious stones. This stone was worth 15,000 kilograms of divine source. Although it was expensive, it couldn't be considered a garden treasure. Just now, when Yi Fan was looking at the levitating flying immortal stone, he used his heaven origin divine perception to examine it. He saw a trace of its wonders and was shocked. He didn't know if this was the Stone King, but it couldn't be too bad. "Seniors, please help me seal this space," Yi Fan said solemnly. Everyone revealed a look of surprise. Could it really be that he could cut out a peerless treasure? One had to know that Tuoba Chang had cut out a divine source. It was almost unsurpassable. "Do you really think you can cut out a rare treasure?" Wu Ziming sneered. Just now his senior Yang Kuan had been tricked. He was furious, but he couldn't do anything to help. "I want to see what you can cut out." Li Zhongtian also sneered. Disillusionment Palace's Grand Elder Li Yishui didn't say a word. He stood to the side with an ashen face. He had wasted 120,000 kilograms of divine source. A group of old men gathered around. Although they admired Yi Fan's original technique, they didn't think he could cut out something more precious than the divine source. However, everyone still worked together to put up a light screen to seal off the area. The Stone Garden's guardian, the silver-haired old man with translucent skin, also walked over to prevent any accidents. Li Heishui reminded him in secret, "Didn't you say there was a Stone King? Don't let it interfere with your judgment again." "Don't worry. This time, I used the original Sky Secret technique to confirm that there is a peerless treasure in this stone," Yi Fan answered confidently. However, he was still a little uncertain. He felt that this was a substitution and not the real Stone King. Tuoba Chang cut out a divine source and I chose such a stone. If they are both substitutes for the Stone King, then it will be quite terrifying. "I wonder what is inside the Stone King," Yi Fan muttered to himself. He began to cut the stone carefully. He held the Dragon Rune Obsidian Holy Spirit sword with 2 fingers and peeled off the surface of the stone. In the distance, everyone became nervous because they realized that his posture was very strange, as if he was going to leave at any time. The great Xia Prince said, "Brother Gu's original technique is amazing. Are you really going to cut out another peerless treasure?" Yao Yuekong was dressed in purple and his eyes glowed purple. He had the temperament of a demon god. "Maybe there will be a surprise." And Miaoyi smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Her beautiful eyes swept back and forth between Yi Fan and Tuoba Chang. As for the group of old men, their expressions were solemn. Divine light flickered on their fingertips, and they were all ready to attack. After all, Yi Fan had cut out the primordial divine medicine and the Saint Spirit sword. These people took his words very seriously. Yi Fan moved his sword quickly and the mill-sized stone quickly shrunk. The surface of the stone kept peeling off. In the end, when the stone was only half the size of a human head, Wu Ziming and Li Chongtian couldn't help but sneer. How could such a big stone compare to a head-sized divine source? Even the Supreme Elder of the Illusion Destruction Palace, Li Yishui, gradually calmed down. He revealed a sneer and was no longer as gloomy as before. Many people shook their heads. They felt that Yi Fan would lose without a doubt. Even Li Heishui was a little nervous. Clang. When Yi Fan cut off another piece of the stone with the black sword, a blazing divine light suddenly shot out, making people unable to open their eyes. Everyone was shocked. Many people opened their eyes wide and watched carefully. Yi Fan continuously waved the small sword. The stone fell off, and a stone ball the size of half a human head was cut out. Through the stone, Dozens of divine lights shot into the sky. The ancient trees were bathed in the divine light, and they were green and translucent. Even the flowers became divine, flickering with light. Divine source. Many people exclaimed. They never thought that a second piece of divine source would come into being. Half the size of a human head. The most conservative estimate is at least 250,000 kilograms of source. An old man quoted in shock. Heavens, another piece of divine source. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. 2 pieces of divine source in one day. Even in the past, this didn't happen many times. It's priceless. Why would such rare divine objects appear one after another? Everyone was discussing. Even the little nun in white couldn't help but squeeze forward and watch curiously. My eyes can't take it. This kind of divine light is too intense. I can't even look straight at it. Someone's eyes were red as he was forced to turn his head away. Haha. After Wu Ziming recovered from his shock, he couldn't help but laugh loudly and said, "So what if it's a divine source? It's only half of Brother Tuoba's divine source." That's right, you guys lost. This piece of divine source will belong to us. Li Zhongtian also laughed impudently. He was extremely excited. Hee hee. Li Yishui let out a breath of resentment and let out a cold laugh. Suddenly the stone ball moved. It immediately rushed into the sky and wanted to escape. Bang! It crashed into the barrier of light. If it wasn't for the fact that this place was already sealed, it really would have escaped. What's going on? The stone ball can fly. Heavens, what is inside the divine source? Why can it fly by itself? A stone that can fly, how is this possible? Everyone was dumbfounded. This defied common sense and was inconceivable. The divine source could float in the sky and not sink, but it definitely couldn't fly. This was definitely a world-shocking treasure, and there might be other treasures inside. Bang bang, the barrier of light was very sturdy. The stone ball crashed in all directions and wanted to escape, but it couldn't do so. Within the Heaven Stone Garden, a group of elders all made their moves. However, they didn't attack, but rather used gentle divine light to suppress it. They imprisoned it and then sealed it. This was because there was a world-shocking treasure inside the divine source. They were afraid of destroying it, so they didn't dare to use too much force. The outer layer of the stone couldn't conceal the divine source's radiance. Many rays of divine light shot out from the cracks, and it was extremely resplendent. It was drawn down. The group of elders' eyes were burning with passion as they fixed it in the air. They were all a bit excited. Little brother, you are indeed amazing. You cut out another exceptional treasure. Sell it to us. We are willing to buy it for a sky-high price. The people who spoke were all representatives of major powers. They all wanted to buy this stone. This sect's rare treasure is more precious than that human head-sized divine source. The Ji Clan Stone Garden Protector said. That's right, it's more precious than that divine source. Someone nodded in agreement. Wu Ziming and Li Chongtian felt as if they were struck by lightning. Their faces turned pale on the spot. They were just filled with joy and excitement, but they never expected the situation to reverse in the blink of an eye. They were close to despair. Li Yishui's face was full of black lines and his veins were throbbing. This result was a huge blow to him. His body swayed and he almost fell onto the ground. He and Yang Kuan had already jumped into a pit, and now they had to hand over another 80,000 kilograms. It was as if they had been struck by a heavy blow. Brother Gu Feng, sell this rare treasure to us. Great Xia will give you a satisfactory price. The Great Xia Prince transmitted his voice. Little brother Gu Feng, Miaoi is willing to buy this treasure. No matter what condition you have, we will try our best to satisfy you. And Miaoi also transmitted her voice with a sweet smile. My 2 brothers. Jiang Yifei also spoke. In a moment, Yi Fan was drowned out by all kinds of divine wills. Many people transmitted their voices to him in secret, tempting and promising him all kinds of benefits. Everyone, let's peel off the outer layer and see what exactly is inside the divine source. Yi Fan replied. He didn't want to sell it carelessly. That's right, peel off the outer layer and see what's inside the divine source. Outside the Heaven Stone Garden, the others all shouted loudly. These people couldn't enter the stone garden, and their status definitely couldn't compare to the representatives of the major powers and the many old men. However, they were the most numerous and their shouts shook the heavens. At this moment, the news spread quickly. Something even more precious than the divine source had been cut out. The entire divine city was once again in an uproar. Within the Heaven Stone Garden, the group of old men didn't stop them. They also wanted to see what exactly was inside. Seniors, please make your move. Yi Fan didn't step forward. In the end, the protector of the Ji clan's stone garden walked over. The tip of his finger flickered with divine radiance as he carefully peeled off the outer layer. In an instant, resplendent splendor appeared like a sun. Those with weaker cultivations couldn't even open their eyes and couldn't see it. Only those with greater strength could. This was the divine source, resplendent splendor. What is that? There's a creature inside the divine source. There's really a living creature. Is it a golden snake? It doesn't look like it. There seems to be horns on its head. Could it be a dragon? It's too dazzling. I can't see it clearly. It shouldn't be a dragon. Everyone was astonished. There was actually a living creature inside the divine source. Chapter 349. It can't really be a dragon, right? True dragons are like immortals, not descending into this world. How could there be this type of thing? The scene erupted with commotion. Many people cried out in alarm. There was a living creature within the divine source. This truly left everyone shocked. The stone sphere that was half the size of a human head had a thin layer of stone peeled off. It was like a golden sun as it floated in midair, releasing blinding radiance. Those with weaker cultivations only had one choice, and that was to close their eyes. They almost couldn't look straight at it. The divine radiance injured their eyes, shooting outwards like golden needles. Those with profound cultivations squeezed forward. Many people widened their mouths in shock, all of them wishing to see what kind of creature was produced within. Yifan found it difficult to calm down. The divine source that produced a living creature within exceeded his expectations. The divine source jumped about like a frightened child. It wanted to escape, but it was suppressed by the screen of light from the older generation figures, so it could only stay in place. Many people completely surrounded it, to the extent where even Yifan couldn't walk in. Something even more precious than the source appeared in this world. It truly was too shocking. There was no one here who could remain calm. They were all stirred up to the extreme, clamoring noisily. Gu Feng, little brother, you have to sell this sect's rare treasure to us. Gu Feng, little brother, can we discuss this? My Yin Yang sect plans on buying this divine source and the creature inside. There has to be a first-come first-served basis. I was the one who said it first. Old man surnamed Wang, you stay behind me. The highest bidder will get it. This old one doesn't mind paying an astronomical price. Before they even confirmed what was inside the divine source, the group of elders were already arguing until their faces were red and their necks were thick. They began to clamor noisily. They were all great sect's senior elders, every single one of their backgrounds terrifying. There's no point in arguing. Gu Feng, little brother, should make the decision. We'll sell it to whoever he says. Gu Feng, little brother? Gu Feng, little brother, where are you? Only now did the group of messy elders notice that the main character wasn't in front of them, who knew where he was squeezed to. Seniors, I'm outside and can't enter. Can you all give me a spot and let me see what exactly was cut out? Yifan really couldn't squeeze in. This group of old men seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They were all lively and full of energy. Although their arms and legs were old, they were harder than iron. Almost all of the younger generation were squeezed out, and many of them grimaced in pain. Only the prince of Great Xia, Yao Yuekong, Jin Qishao, and the others could stay inside, but they were all disheveled, and it was already good enough that they could stand there. The little nun in white wrinkled her nose and hid behind her brother. Quick, make way for Brother Gu and let him in. Old man, get out of the way. Don't block the main character. The crowd stopped pushing and shoving. Yifan finally walked in and came to the center of the field. Without a doubt, he became the center of attention. Me too. Li Heishui's shoes were pushed away by the group of old men. His clothes were in a mess and he finally followed them in. He couldn't help but complain, Seniors, don't be so excited like you've seen a peerless beauty. My clothes are about to be ripped off. Yifan finally came inside. The divine source was dazzling and this group of old men fought for a long time, but they still couldn't figure out what was inside. Seniors, let's not fight over this first. What do you all think it is? Yifan was also observing, but the divine radiance was too intense. He could only see a rough outline and couldn't examine it in detail. The main thing was that the creature inside the divine source itself was very special. It emitted a hazy brilliance that wrapped around itself. Vaguely, one could see that it was a golden figure. It looked like a golden snake but also like a golden dragon. It didn't move at all. There can't be a true dragon in this world. It should be a flood dragon or a holy snake with horns. It's most likely a golden snake or a flood dragon. Who said there isn't a true dragon? Maybe it's a young immemorial dragon sealed inside the divine source. The opinions of the older generation were quite different and they all had different viewpoints. The divine source was glaring and illuminated the entire island. The surrounding lake water became sparkling and translucent, turning it into a golden color. As for the ancient trees on the island, they were all dyed in golden radiance. Even the petals became divine, flowing with brilliant colors and flickering translucently. Yi Fan remained silent. He activated his heavenly origin divine perception and observed carefully. His eyes immediately shot out two beams of purple light that entered the divine source. This was a wondrous technique from the heavenly origin book. It could see through fabrications and see through the source. Yi Fan clearly saw the creature inside and he was extremely astonished. It was a small thing that couldn't move at all. It was sealed inside, but it was definitely still alive. Its bodily functions were slowly recovering, and the sound of a heartbeat could be heard. It really looks like a dragon. Yi Fan's heart beat rapidly, and he couldn't suppress his excitement. This little creature was half a foot long and it curled up inside. It had a golden dragon body and a pair of dragon horns on its head. No, it doesn't have dragon scales. Yi Fan observed carefully and found that its body was very smooth. Its golden body surface was sparkling and translucent like jade, and there wasn't a single dragon scale. Soon, he calmed down and began to ponder seriously. At this time he discovered another abnormality. The so-called golden dragon horn was actually made of flesh and was flickering with light. Strange little dragon, little flood dragon, little golden snake? He was puzzled and couldn't determine what this was. And what surprised him the most was that this little creature's eyes were extremely large. They were actually opened and it seemed very innocent as it stared at him. It's much larger than a dragon's eyes. It's too watery. Yi Fan was speechless. This little creature seemed to be very human-like. At this time the divine source throbbed again. It continuously wanted to escape as if it was frightened by a group of old men. It was obvious that it wasn't that powerful. It couldn't struggle free and couldn't escape. So cute. The white-clothed little nun lowly stared at the divine source with her large clear eyes. Her eyes weren't burned by the divine radiance and seemed to be able to see everything inside. Little brother Gufeng, Miaoi really hopes that you can sell this source to me. And Miaoi also approached and spoke softly. Her body fragrance was like that of orchids. Little brother Gufeng, can you use your Genesis technique to observe it? An old man asked. Yi Fan shook his head. Up until now, he could only confirm that this little creature wasn't a vicious creature. It seemed like it wouldn't harm people. He extended his right hand and held the divine source in his palm. At this moment, all the pores on his body opened up. The world's most primordial essence entered his body, making him feel very comfortable. This was the divine source. Even though it hadn't been refined, it already made people feel that it was different from others. Gotcha. Suddenly, the divine source cracked. The golden little creature struggled to break free and wanted to rush out. Quick, lay down restrictions and tightly seal this place. Stop it. Don't let it escape. Everyone was shocked. The group of old men quickly took action. Layer after layer of light barriers descended, and it was unknown just how many layers of barriers were sealed. In the distance, the other cultivators were even more excited. Some broke their heads and rushed forward, creating a clamor as they wanted to see what was going on. Meanwhile, some people acted as if they were avoiding snakes and scorpions, quickly retreating out of fear of being contaminated. Rookies, what are you guys foolishly rushing forward for? Not a single archaic creature is kind. If they truly come into being, rivers of blood will flow. Don't tell me you guys don't know? The archaic creatures that came out in the past were all incomparably tyrannical and took away many lives. When these words were spoken, there was immediately a wave of panic. The people who were rushing forward were all dumbfounded and quickly retreated. In Ji family's important area, flying was not allowed at all. However, at this moment people couldn't care so much anymore. Many people rose into the air and fled far away. Of course, there was still a large group of people who stayed behind and didn't leave. On the contrary, they advanced a certain distance because they saw that the older generation characters didn't retreat. Gotcha. The divine source cracked open. With a flash of golden light, that little creature rushed out. No one wasn't nervous because the archaic creature's ferocious might shocked the world and left behind too many legends. Only Yi Fan could still be considered calm because he sensed with his divine sense that this little creature didn't have any killing intent. Swoosh. The golden figure flashed. No one could stop it. Even the heaven-sealing earth-locking technique that Yi Fan used couldn't stop it. It was inconceivably fast. Fortunately, this place was sealed and it couldn't escape. It floated in the air and emitted a hazy golden light. Heavens, is it really a dragon? At this moment, Everyone could clearly see that it was similar to a real dragon, except that it didn't have dragon scales. Its entire body was like golden jade, sparkling and translucent. Of course, there were also differences. Its eyes were too big and extremely watery, making many girls jealous. At this moment, its expression was very human-like. It seemed to be a bit scared, confused, and somewhat innocent at the same time. Swoosh! With a flash of golden light, it returned to Yi Fan's palm and fingers. Many people cried out in alarm. It was just too fast. A few older generation figures didn't even have time to take action. Gotcha. This little creature's body was extremely small, no more than half a foot long. However, it bit off a fist-sized piece of divine source with a single bite. Yi Fan's expression immediately changed. He wanted to snatch it back, but this little thing swallowed it in one gulp. There was simply no time. Its small body didn't expand and didn't change in the slightest. It was still just that exquisite and hazy with golden light. I'm going to cry. I ate 50,000 gene of source in one gulp. Li Heishui opened his large mouth and screamed miserably. Yi Fan quickly shook his hand, wanting to send this little thing flying. However, its reaction was extremely fast. With another bite, another fist-sized piece of divine source disappeared with a gotcha sound. 50,000 gene of source is gone. The corners of Yi Fan's lips were twitching. This time, he finally shook off the little creature, putting away the divine source with a flip of his hand. There's no justice in this world. 50,000 gene of source was eaten in the blink of an eye. Li Heishui's heart was even dripping blood, feeling waves of pain as he howled dryly. In the distance, the others were also stupefied. This little thing was too extravagant. As soon as it came out, with just 2 bites, 50,000 gene of source was gone. 2/5 of this divine source was eaten by it. It could be said to be as extravagant as it could be. Yi Fan turned his hand over, grabbing towards this little creature, wishing to lock it in place and seize it. However, this little thing was just too fast. With a flash of golden light, it immediately arrived in midair. You wastrel, this is divine source, how could you do this? Li Heishui shouted towards the sky. In the distance there was a clamor. Everyone was shocked, all of them discussing among themselves. Dark lines appeared on Yi Fan's forehead as well. It really wasn't worth it, having so much divine source devoured by this little creature in one go, making him feel waves of pain as well. However, at this moment, the little thing in midair revealed an extremely human-like expression. It actually felt extremely wronged, a pair of large eyes brimming with tears, staring pitifully at Yi Fan's hand, as if it was searching for that piece of divine source. It was just short of saying, that piece of divine source is mine. Its current appearance really made one unable to produce any killing intent, only pity and sympathy. Especially its pair of large eyes, they possessed great destructive power towards females. You ate my 50,000 gene of source, can you not look at me like that? Yi Fan said while bringing out a bean-sized piece of divine source, summoning it, wishing to draw it down and capture it. Who would have thought that this little creature was full of spirit, its large and lively eyes widening until they were perfectly round. A small claw was clenched into a small fist, forcefully waving downwards. Everyone was dumbstruck. This little creature was truly human-like, able to understand human language. Yi Fan quickly took action, grabbing towards the sky, wishing to capture it. Swish! With a flash of golden light, it began to flee, flying into the distance. At the same time, the other older generation figures also took action, preparing to capture it alive. What exactly was this? Everyone wanted to know, wanted to understand, and only by capturing it would they be able to find out. With so many people taking action, even if this little creature was extremely fast, it still couldn't escape. It seemed to be extremely alarmed, its pair of large eyes filled with a fearful expression. In order to escape, it didn't care where it was going, flying down with a whoosh sound. Aya! The white-clothed little nun cried out in alarm because this little creature in its panic bumped into her shoulder. This was a very special scene. The golden little creature landed on the white-clothed little nun's shoulder, one of its small claws clutching a lock of her beautiful hair, a timid expression on its face. Meanwhile, the white-clothed little nun Loli was also scared stiff, a fearful expression on her face. The 2 pairs of large eyes were almost the same, one bright and timid, the other blinking, scared, both with pitiful appearances. Quick, catch it. Don't let it escape. Little sister, hurry up and take action. On the side many people shouted like this. However, the white-clothed little nun stared at the little creature on her shoulder, her large eyes blinking, slowly losing her fear, not taking action. This little creature seemed to have also sensed that there was no danger, gathering its courage to move a bit, looking at the surrounding people with a wronged expression. Don't take action, this little thing isn't dangerous, it doesn't have any killing intent, different from ordinary archaic creatures. Yifan said. Even though he said this, the golden little creature didn't appreciate it at all. When it looked at Yifan, it was seething with anger, reaching out a small claw to point at him, silently complaining, a pair of large eyes brimming with tears. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed as if Yifan had committed a monstrous crime, causing it to feel incomparably wronged. Yifan was speechless. After staring at it for a while, he said, "Don't stare at me like that, I was the one who rescued you from the stone. Brother Gu, this little creature is fated with my little sister. You must sell it to us." The great Xia prince spoke, full of sincerity. Yifan didn't say anything, unable to reply right now. It was because right at this moment, it was unknown just how many divine wills were transmitting sound to him, all of them saying that they wanted to buy this little golden creature. Hurry up and observe the surrounding stones, see which one is abnormal. Yifan transmitted his voice to Li Heishui. What do you want to do? Li Heishui was puzzled. I suspect that the true Stone King hasn't been found yet, Yifan replied. At this moment, everyone was squeezing forward, wanting to see this little creature from a closer distance. They were all eager to know what it was. What kind of creature is this? Many people expressed their doubts. Yeah, it doesn't look like a true dragon, nor does it look like a flood dragon. Even its horns are fleshy, those large eyes are too bright. The protector of the Ji family's stone garden, that old man with skin like white jade, walked forward with a serious expression. Could this be? Chapter 350. Senior, do you know what it is? On the side, an elder asked with a respectful expression. From this, one could see how extraordinary the status of Ji family's stone garden's protector was. Even some rotten old men considered themselves to be of the younger generation. His body was tall and imposing. His silver hair fell down like a waterfall and his skin was snow white like jade. One could tell with a single look that he cultivated a strange art. This little golden creature. He frowned, seemingly a bit unsure. Everyone was listening attentively. What was shocking was that even that little golden fairy was listening attentively. It tilted its head, paying close attention to this place. The silver-haired elder looked carefully, nodded, and said, "It should be an archaic divine silkworm." When these words were spoken, everyone's jaws dropped. How could it be a silkworm? It clearly looked like a true dragon, yet it was said to be a bug. The little golden creature blinked its large eyes, seemingly quite perplexed. It didn't acknowledge the elder's words. Everyone was puzzled, full of questions. However, everyone knew that this elder's status was extraordinary, and he wouldn't speak irresponsibly. No matter how you look at it, it looks like a young dragon. It has nothing to do with a silkworm. Someone mumbled softly. The silver-haired elder said, "In reality you can also call it a beast. However, a Yuan Taoist master in the past called this creature a divine silkworm, and that is how it was passed down." Why is that? Everyone became even more puzzled. Someone asked. According to what the Yuan Taoist master said, its first form is a type of divine silkworm. The reason why the word divine was added before the word silkworm is because it is too extraordinary. It can be called a divine bug. The silver-haired elder spoke slowly. No one interrupted, all of them listening carefully. The little golden fairy was quite dutiful, also listening carefully. This type of creature was extremely strange. It could continuously evolve, and its first form was indeed a silkworm. Its entire body was golden and sparkling, and it ate source as food. Its lifespan was unknown. It was rumored that after one transformation, it would break away from the scope of a silkworm and become a little golden snake. In its life, it could experience 9 transformations at most. Each transformation was a new life, equivalent to a rebirth, and its strength would soar. However, under normal circumstances, it was already not bad for this type of creature to transform once or twice, because the conditions for each transformation were extremely harsh. What kind of existence will the 9 divine silkworm transformations become? Someone asked. The silver-haired old man said, "It will become an unimaginably powerful creature. Even in the primordial era, it will be enough to run amok in the heavens and earth." A divine bug can transform to that level? Many people found this a bit hard to believe. Indeed. The silver-haired old man nodded. These secrets had come from a former Yuan Taoist master, who had traveled through the mountains and ancient veins and excavated countless mines. His understanding of primordial life forms was the most authoritative. However, the silver-haired elder only knew a portion of it and couldn't explain it in detail. After all, too much time had passed, and the dust of history had drowned out everything. The truth was getting further and further away, and it was extremely difficult to uncover it. Normally, this kind of divine bug can only undergo 1 or 2 transformations. If it completes 9 transformations, it won't become a true dragon, right? Hearing this deduction, everyone revealed a surprised expression and looked at the little elf on the shoulder of the little nun in white. Its whole body shone with a golden radiance and it really looked like a young dragon. Its big eyes were filled with innocence as if saying, "Don't look at me." The silver-haired elder shook his head and said, "As for what it can transform into, no one can say for sure." In the past, a Yuan Taoist master had said that the 9 transformations of the divine silkworm couldn't be predicted at all. As for what kind of creature it would become, it was hard to say for sure. He had previously speculated that the humanoid kings among the primordial creatures might very well have been transformed from this kind of creature. Of course, there was no proof for all of this and it was all speculation. However, the Yuan Taoist master had the most right to speak about the primordial races, because they had come into contact with them too much. From the underground and ancient mines, they discovered many secrets ordinary people couldn't know of. After understanding all of this, there wasn't a single cultivator who wasn't shocked. They stared at the little golden creature, and all of them revealed strange expressions. If this little thing could undergo 9 transformations, it would become an unmatched existence. How many transformations did it undergo? Finally, someone brought up this question. "It should have only undergone 2 transformations," said the silver-haired elder. However, everyone was still puzzled because this little elf was extremely perplexed. It seemed as if it didn't understand anything at all, and it didn't approve of the elder's words. It is like a blank sheet of paper and it is also very pure. It doesn't seem to know its own identity. That's right, no matter how you look at it, it seems like a little muddle-headed. It doesn't know anything. The silver-haired elder shook his head and said, "Every time it transforms, it is a new life. Not only does its body change, even its memories are erased and it has to start anew." So abnormal. The 9 transformations of the divine silkworm, isn't it equivalent to experiencing 9 lives? Even a few messy old men were shocked. Otherwise, how could it become an existence that can run amok in the heavens and earth? Said the silver-haired elder. Someone pondered and said, "I recalled an ancient scripture that had long been lost in the eastern wasteland. It is very similar to the 9 transformations of the divine silkworm. In the past, there was the imperishable heaven art that produced a divine embryo from an old body that was on the verge of death. Today Yi Fan cut out this kind of creature. A living primordial creature appeared, shocking everyone. Many people were both envious and jealous. Even though it is a primordial creature, it might not necessarily be more precious than Brother Tuoba's divine source." Wu Ziming suddenly spoke. "That's right, it can't transform at all. Under normal circumstances, it will reach its limit after 1 or 2 evolutions. How can it compare to a divine object that is worth 500,000 kilograms of pure divine source?" Li Zhongqian echoed. They were afraid of losing and didn't want to admit defeat. They weren't willing to hand over tens of thousands of kilograms of divine source to Yi Fan. Let's not talk about whether it can carry out the 9 transformations of the divine silkworm. Just the fact that it is psychic surpasses divine source, the silver-haired elder said. "It can be psychic?" Everyone revealed doubtful expressions and asked again. "Because it can produce divine source," the silver-haired elder explained. 10,000 years ago, a Yuan Taoist master once said that regardless of whether it could transform into a supreme existence, the value of a divine silkworm was at least 600,000 kilograms of divine source. This kind of creature ate source as food. It could spit out divine silk and form a divine silkworm cocoon, which was the purest divine source. Heavens, it can't be, right? Everyone was shocked. This little spirit could produce divine source. It was truly stupefying. At that moment, the group of old men and countless people stared at the little elf that looked like a real dragon with burning eyes. It blinked its large eyes and still had an innocent appearance. A small golden claw grabbed a lock of the white-clothed little nun's beautiful hair and anxiously pressed it against her shoulder. "Little brother Gufeng, state your price. This little spirit is mine. I will buy it no matter the price." A group of people surrounded Yi Fan. He couldn't interrupt at all. Everyone was extremely fervent. "Senior, how much source does it need to eat before it can spit out a divine silkworm cocoon?" Yi Fan asked the silver-haired elder, using this to divert the attention of many cultivators. "A lot. The gains don't make up for the losses. If it was a little creature that had only transformed once, It would be quite good if it could spit out a divine silkworm cocoon worth 10,000 kilograms of pure source after eating 1,000,000 kilograms of pure source. This is too wasteful. Everyone was stupefied. A divine silkworm that has transformed twice or more will have a much higher conversion rate. Many people gave up. They couldn't afford to raise this little thing. It was simply like a little glutton. Of course, this was only for ordinary sections. However, the people from the various holy lands were tempted. Divine source had a special meaning and value. The top powers yearned for it. If they could, at certain times, they would be willing to squander an endless amount of pure source to transform it into divine source, even if it was extremely wasteful. The white-haired elder said, 10,000 years ago the Jade Lake Holy Land had a divine silkworm. It was gifted to them by a Yuan Taoist master. Everything I know is from the Jade Lake. Many people revealed strange expressions. 10,000 years ago, that extraordinary person came to the divine city and gambled until the great sage's face turned green. However, there was nothing they could do. All laws were interlinked. When the origin technique reached its peak, it would be close to the great Tao. It could also obtain the power of heaven and earth. That extraordinary person's strength was unfathomable. The divine silkworm of the Jade Lake can ultimately transform into a supreme creature? The silver-haired elder shook his head and said, "It's almost impossible. Every transformation requires extremely harsh conditions. Even in the archaic era, it was difficult to succeed, let alone now. Little thing, I saved you. Hurry up and come over. I'll give you source to eat." Yi Fan smiled. He took out a large piece of pure source and waved at the golden little creature. The dragon-like little fairy immediately became angry. It tilted its head to the side and ignored him. "You have quite a temper. Just now you ate my divine source. It's worth 50,000 kilograms. Yi Fan laughed. "You stole Xiaoguai's divine source. It naturally has to be angry. That belongs to it." The white-clothed nun muttered softly. In just a short while, she had already given the golden little creature a name. This little thing seemed to have accepted it. It stretched out a small claw with its palm facing up. It seemed to want that piece of divine source as it stared at Yi Fan. Yi Fan scared it and said, "Little thing, I saved you. From now on you will follow me. Why do you still need divine source? If you don't listen, I'll sell you." "Alright, I want to buy Xiaoguai." The white-clothed nun looked very happy. The golden little fairy clenched its small fist and silently waved it at Yi Fan. Then it looked at the great Xia princess and blinked its large eyes. Yi Fan had a headache. How should he deal with this little thing? It seemed like he couldn't keep it. Many major forces, including the people from the great sage's land, were transmitting messages to him. They wanted to buy this golden little creature. He couldn't afford to offend any of these major forces. Moreover, this little thing looked like a wastrel. A piece of divine source the size of half a human head wasn't even enough for it to chew. Do I really have to sell it? But if it goes through 9 transformations in the future? Yi Fan shook his head and didn't make a decision. He walked over to Tuoba-chang. It was time to collect the spoils of war. Wu Ziming and Li Zhongtian were standing at the side. When they saw Yi Fan coming over, their faces instantly turned pale. They had lost tens of thousands of kilograms of divine source. On the side, Disillusionment Palace's Grand Elder Li Yishui felt dizzy. Not long ago he had jumped into a huge pit, and now he had to hand over 80,000 kilograms of divine source. He really wanted to vomit blood. Yi Fan did not pay attention to them. The most important thing right now was to collect that head-sized divine source. It quietly floated in the air. Even though it was covered by the rock, there were still several dozen streaks of divine radiance shooting out. They were exceptionally resplendent. Tuoba-chang was extremely unwilling, but there was nothing he could do. He could only watch as Yi Fan held the divine source in his palm. "Little thing, I still have such a big piece of divine source here. Do you want it?" Yi Fan tempted the nearby golden little creature. Whoosh! As expected, a golden light rushed over. It was so fast that no one could react in time. Fortunately, Yi Fan was prepared. He put away the divine source origin with a flip of his hand and grabbed it. Whoosh! The golden light flashed and disappeared. The golden little creature returned to the white-clothed little nun's shoulder and stared angrily at Yi Fan. 9 transformations of the divine silkworm. Is the ancient legend really going to come true? Red Dragon Taoist appeared in the stone garden. His pupils contracted as he stared at the golden little creature. At the same time, Li Heishui transmitted a message to Yi Fan. He seemed to have discovered a strange stone shifting. Chapter 351. The Red Dragon Taoist's body was withered. He was still wearing that ancient Taoist robe. He stared at the little golden creature, his eyes flickering with scarlet light. The little thing that looked like a real dragon was scared. It hid behind the little nun in white and peeked its head out to observe. "Xiao Guai, don't be afraid." The little nun in white comforted it and placed it on her shoulder. Once the red dragon Taoist appeared, those old men who didn't have much time left in them were extremely fearful and no longer spoke casually. The others didn't know his identity and continued to discuss. The stone garden was noisy. 9 transformations of divine silkworm. The red dragon Taoist said softly. He raised his head to look at the sky and then at the ground as if he was sensing something. Yi Fan wanted to go over and greet him, but a scarlet light flashed. The old Taoist's figure became indistinct, immediately disappearing. He didn't stay for long. "Why are you leaving so quickly?" He wanted to borrow the might of the red dragon. Li Heishui squeezed in and helped Yi Fan collect the source. There were all kinds of colorful gems on the ground that piled up. "Thank you for your help so many times and gifting me so much source today. You're really loyal." He laughed loudly. Wu Ziming's eyes were spitting fire. Li Chongtian's nose was almost crooked from anger. The two of them didn't say a word and gritted their teeth. "And this old mister, you're really warm-hearted to help us so many times." Disillusionment Palace's Grand Elder Li Yishui was furious. He really wanted to slap this Fei He brat in front of him, but he could only suppress his anger. He was really angry. He jumped into the pit and in less than an hour, he had lost 200,000 kilograms of source. Most of it was borrowed and he wouldn't be able to pay it back for the rest of his life. Thinking of this miserable situation, he almost fainted and wanted to slap himself. "Old man, don't tremble. Anger is bad for your body. You're so smart to even think of stealing the wondrous stone. Are you afraid you won't be able to get the source?" Li Heishui added fuel to the fire and hit him when he was down. His calm appearance was similar to Disillusionment Palace's Grand Elder's behavior not long ago. There were others who gambled with Yi Fan. Their faces were ashen and full of regret. When Tuoba Chang cut out the divine source, they felt that they would definitely win. Yet they were still defeated. Was there still justice in this world? The heavens were deliberately trying to trick them. The several piles of origin source on the ground added up to a total of 143,000 jin. They were like multicolored gems blooming with light. Yi Fan waved his sleeve and collected all the origin stones. At this moment, many people's hearts were bleeding. They wanted to cry but had no tears. "Brother Tuoba, according to our previous agreement, our wager is 100,000 kilograms of origin source. How are you going to give it to me?" asked Yi Fan. Even though Tuoba Chang was the #1 successor of an ancient Genesis technique clan, he had only brought 100,000 kilograms of Genesis source with him. He had already owed the Ji clan over 300,000 kilograms for the sake of cutting the stone. "I'll carve the inscriptions for you and return them to you in a few days." Yi Fan smiled and said, "Why don't you write to Ji clan and owe another 100,000 kilograms of origin source? Then I will use these origin source to gamble on stones. What do you think?" "All right." Tuoba Chang gritted his teeth. But this time Ji clan did not agree no matter what. They wanted to immediately send the two of them away. Strictly speaking, Ji clan did not suffer a huge loss. Yi Fan had invested 450,000 kilograms of origin source to cut the stone, and Tuoba Chang had done the same. The two of them were incomparably crazy and threw out a total of 500,000 kilograms. Of course, after cutting out the divine source and the divine silkworm, they earned back everything. The biggest winner was undoubtedly Yi Fan. 2 divine source and that little golden creature, it was over 500,000 kilograms of origin source. It could be said to be a shocking gamble. Yi Fan squeezed out of the crowd and started to choose stones again. Because he had paid 150 kilograms of origin source for the last time, he did not buy an astronomical strange stone. Instead, he chose a stone worth 15,000 kilograms and cut out the little golden creature. "This is too crazy. Are we going to continue cutting? Don't tell me we can cut out another peerless treasure?" Everyone's attention was focused on him. Yi Fan's every move was especially attention-grabbing as he continued to cut out world-shocking items. The people of the Ji clan pinched their noses and let him continue. They actually wanted to kick him out. To the Holy Stone Workshop, people like this were not welcome. "The stone under this old tree, the stone in the vines." Li Heishui kept pointing. He noticed that 7 or 8 stones had moved. Yi Fan frowned. Stone King had a spirit, and it was purposely revealing a flaw. It was a provocation. "If I was the Yuan Taoist master, would you be able to run?" he said to himself. In the end, Yi Fan shook his head. This Stone King had a spirit, so it had to contain a shocking treasure. But he could not find it yet. He thought that even if he spent a few million kilograms of origin source and cut all the stones in the Heavenstone Garden, he would not be able to find it. He suspected that Stone King was not in the Heavenstone Garden. Perhaps it was in the lake or on the shore. It was hard to be sure. Yi Fan chose 2 stones, but there was nothing special about them. He did not pay for them though. He cut out a xenogeneic origin. In the end he looked at the center of the island. There was an old tree and there was a smooth purple stone. The guardian of the Ji clan sat on it. He looked at the price. If he cut that stone he could spend 90,000 kilograms of origin source. You can't cut that stone. It is where the elder practices. Someone stopped him. Didn't you tell me the price? Li Heishui asked. Let them cut it. The silver-haired old man waved his hand. Forget it. This is where the elder meditates. It is not appropriate for us to offend him. Yi Fan shook his head. In the end he spent 90,000 kilograms of origin source. There was no treasure but he did not pay for it. He cut out a few big xenogeneics. Are we just going to give up? Are we not going to find Stone King? Li Heishui asked. I want to find it but I can't. Even if I do find it I won't be able to keep it. It will be a holy item and there will be bloodshed. I'll come back another day. If the Red Dragon Taoist had not left he would have tried. But now he gave up on that idea. The stone gambling war came to an end. Yi Fan had gained a lot. Many people were jealous but they could not do anything bad to him. Now many factions including people from the Holy Lands, surrounded him and offered him an olive branch. In the north area, a genius with an origin skill like this was a VIP. Many old men tried to recruit him. Of course the fight for the little gold creature had begun. Ordinary people could not afford to raise it, but the Holy Lands could. Little friend, I have prepared a feast. How about we drink and talk later? I have already booked a VIP garden in the Gold family's drunken Immortal Tower. Little brother Gu must go. Even Li Heishui could not escape. He was stopped by a group of old men. Their passionate gazes made his hair stand on end. And Miaoyi, Jin Qishao, Xiang Yifei and the others were extremely enthusiastic. They all wanted to buy the little gold fairy. Among them Jiang Yifei and the great Xia Prince were the most determined. It seemed they would pay any price. Brothers, it is not suitable for you to sell it to anyone. Why don't you auction it at our Sky Demon Treasure Tower? Yao Yuekong suggested. There is no need to go there. Their commission is as high as 10%. Little brother Gu, don't you think it is a waste? An older person objected. They were worried that once the news spread, more people would come to fight. At that time the price would be unimaginably high. Even the corpses from the source stones were treasures worth studying, let alone a living divine silkworm. Yi Fan and Li Heishui discussed for a long time whether to sell the little gold fairy or not. The divine silkworm 9 transformations was invincible. Its value was immeasurable. But it was easier said than done. It was difficult to succeed even in the immemorial era, let alone in this era. I have decided I will not sell this divine silkworm, Yi Fan said. The scene was dead silent. Then a cold killing intent permeated the air. No less than 10 of them came from an unknown place. Yi Fan's heart jumped. All the major powers were determined to get it. If he insisted on not selling, his life might be in danger. I want to rent it out. As soon as he said this, the killing intent disappeared. Many people were shocked. It can be rented? It is a living thing. This is too. How can we rent it? Many people discussed. All the major powers calmed down and started asking questions. 600,000 kilograms of source stone. The time limit is when it goes through its 3rd transformation, Yi Fan said. Young man, you really dare to ask for such a high price. In the past, the Yuan Taoist master said that a divine silkworm is worth 600,000 kilograms of source stone. You are only renting it out, yet you are asking for such a high price. Yi Fan smiled and didn't say anything. He understood that whether it was renting or selling, the result would be the same. Once it entered the hands of these major powers, it would be impossible to hand it over. Thus, although he said he was renting it out, he was selling it at the same price. There were many benefits to this. Firstly, he wouldn't lose out. He could compensate with source stone. Secondly, he could rent it out. In the future, when he became stronger, he could go to them and ask for it. 800,000 kilograms of source stone, my Grand Xia Empire is renting it. Suddenly, a dignified voice rang out. The group of old men turned their heads. Unknowingly, a middle-aged man had appeared in the stone garden. He was dressed in a golden dragon robe and had a dragon crown on his head. He was tall and looked extremely majestic. One could faintly see 9 dragons coiling around his body. On the dragon crown on his head, there was a dragon head formed from draconic chi. Royal uncle. The Grand Xia prince and his sister went up and greeted. He nodded. An incomparably powerful aura radiated from him, causing the group of old men to be unable to speak. This was definitely a Saint Lord level character. Only the silver-haired old man from the Ji clan wasn't affected. Brother Ji. The lips of the major characters from Grand Xia moved slightly. It was obvious that he was transmitting his voice. Okay, I won't fight with Brother Xia. The silver-haired old man nodded. As for the others, they couldn't interject at all. In the face of such a powerful character, the old men were completely suppressed. Little friend, what do you think? The major characters from the Everlasting God Dynasty asked Yi Fan. Yi Fan and Li Heishui weren't suppressed. He didn't hesitate and nodded in agreement. No matter what, he definitely couldn't protect this little golden fairy because many major factions were eyeing it covetously. Okay, I will gather 800,000 kilograms of source stone within 3 days. After saying this, the major character from the Everlasting God Dynasty disappeared. Yi Fan had cut out a living creature that was even more precious than divine source stone. This shocked the entire divine city. First, the red dragon Taoist and then the Grand Xia Emperor's uncle appeared one after another. The little nun in white cheered. She was extremely happy. Only then did the others let out a long sigh of relief. They could speak again. This is too overbearing. He's using his power to suppress us. He didn't even allow us to speak. Could it be that you want to reason with a Saint Lord level character? Many people were dissatisfied, especially the figures from the major factions. However, there was nothing they could do. The major characters were high above them. There was no way to go against them. By renting out the little fairy, Yi Fan had killed 3 birds with 1 stone. Firstly, he had diverted the attention of the Holy Lands. Otherwise, his life would definitely be in danger. Secondly, this little golden creature was a true prodigal child. He couldn't afford to raise it at all. Doing this was equivalent to finding someone to raise it. Lastly, by sending this little thing out like this, he could obtain a lot of source stone. In the future, when he was strong enough, he could confidently ask for it back. Being rented out like a rare treasure, the little golden creature was very angry. It stared at Yi Fan with its big round eyes and kept baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Little Guai, don't be angry. You can have as much source stone as you want. The little nun in white consoled. Fortunately, it was rented out. Otherwise, with this little thing's speed, who knows when it will run away? Li Heishui said. Yi Fan nodded and said, even if it really follows me, it will probably only think about the divine source stone. Once it gets it, it will definitely run away. That's right. We aren't afraid of thieves stealing, but we are afraid of thieves remembering and not being able to guard against it. The two comforted themselves. They made such a decision mainly because they had no other choice. The Holy Lands wouldn't let them take it away. The divine silkworm belongs to the little nun. The little nun is. Before Li Heishui could finish, Yi Fan hurriedly signaled for him to shut up. The great Xia prince and his sister had already walked behind him. Xia Yiming said with a dark expression, "Brother, I don't want to hear such words again. It's definitely a misunderstanding." Li Heishui hurriedly explained. The little golden creature and the great Xia princess Xia Yilin really hit it off. 2 pairs of big eyes blinked at the same time. The stone gambling battle had completely come to an end. After a long time, the crowd dispersed. Yi Fan and Li Heishui were surrounded. Even though the divine silkworm already had an owner, the major forces still tried their best to rope them in. In the next few days, the two were busy with all kinds of social engagements and appeared at the banquets of the major forces. On the 3rd day, the important figures of the Eternal Celestial Dynasty personally delivered 800,000 kilograms of source stone. In less than 2 days, Tuoba Chang also returned 100,000 kilograms of source stone. In the next few days, Yi Fan went to the stone squares of the 3 holy lands one after another and wantonly bought them. However, he didn't cut out any peerless treasures. He only exchanged the pure source stone he had for xenogeneic source stone gambling. The so-called peerless treasures could only be found by chance. He couldn't always cut them out. Otherwise, he wouldn't have called them rare treasures. At this point, Yi Fan had obtained enough source stone to break through. He decided to temporarily leave the Divine City because he had been in the limelight recently. He needed to hide and find a quiet place to break through. At the same time, he also wanted to do one thing: help Divine King Jiang Taishu escape. Jiang Taishu had taught him the Battle Saint technique. He couldn't forget this kindness, and he had been thinking about how to repay it. Now, the Holy Lands were going to use extreme holy weapons to break Purple Mountain. If Divine King Jiang Taishu was still alive, perhaps he could be saved. He needed to send the news to the Jiang family. Was little Tingting doing well? How was Uncle Jiang? He had always missed him. He had been in the northern region for a long time, but he hadn't been close to the Jiang family's territory. Outside the Divine City, Li Heishui sent Yi Fan off. He asked, "Brother, when are you coming back?" "I'll be back soon. I still need more source stone," Yi Fan said. Li Heishui informed Zhou Yuan, "Come back early. The 8 lunatics and several members of the ancient Genesis Technique clans have arrived. They want to have a Genesis Technique showdown with you." "Little brother Ancient Wind, are you leaving the Divine City?" "Miaoyi is going on a long journey. Let's go together." And Miaoyi walked out of the Divine City. Chapter 352. The Divine City was grand and majestic, like the residence of a god. Legend has it that it fell from the immortal world. Yi Fan was about to leave. Looking back at the Divine City, he felt a sense of grandeur and vicissitudes. It had a circumference of 100 miles, vast and boundless. It had been through the primordial era until now. "Take care. Let's go back." Yi Fan bid farewell to Li Heishui and walked forward with large steps, gradually disappearing into the horizon. Ahead, and Miaoyi was waiting for him. She wore a white dress with a jade belt around her waist. Her waist was small and slender, and her figure was slender and alluring. She was like a fairy, slender and elegant with a fragrance wafting in the air. When the wind blew, her long hair fluttered as if she wanted to ride the wind and fly away. The two of them continued on their way, leaving the Divine City. The ancient trees and wisteria became fewer and fewer. They were about to leave this warm place. The tinkling of the spirit spring decreased, and the vegetation became sparser. Cold air wafted over, and the green plants gradually disappeared. "It's the season of snow," and Miaoyi said softly. In front of them was a vast expanse of whiteness. The mountains and rivers were all covered in white snow. The Divine City was a very special place. The area around it was full of vitality all year round, and flowers bloomed in spring. After leaving the Divine City, the true season appeared. Unknowingly, it was already winter. Heavy snow fluttered about, and the northern wind whistled. The vast northern region was bitterly cold. The chilly wind blew over, making whooshing sounds and swirling up the snowflakes. "Little brother Gu Feng seems to be prejudiced against me and has always been on guard against me." And Miaoyi's beauty was unquestionable. Her exquisite face was flawless. "Farian, you think too much. Why would I be prejudiced against you? You are the most beautiful person in the eastern wasteland. I don't think many can resist your charm." Yi Fan walked on the snow. "Your words don't match your heart. Little brother Gu is not honest." And Miaoyi's skin was sparkling and translucent, whiter than snow. Walking on the snowy ground, she was like a fairy. Yi Fan was indeed on guard. This beautiful girl leaving the Divine City at this time was too much of a coincidence. "Farian, where are you going?" "I haven't decided yet. If little brother Gu Feng doesn't mind, why don't we travel together for a while?" "To travel with Fairy is naturally what I want, but I have some personal matters to take care of." This woman was beautiful, but her motives were impure. If it was any other day he could eat the sugar coating. But now was not the time for romance. The Holy Lands and the 100 sects of the Central Plains were about to attack the Purple Mountain. He did not have much time to waste. And Miaoyi chuckled, "Very well, let's go our separate ways after leaving this place." On the way, she vaguely mentioned the ghost face bronze artifact from last time. It involved half of an extreme holy weapon, which was undoubtedly very attractive. When the sky darkened, Yi Fan stopped in the snow and turned around, but he didn't see anything. "Miaoyi?" He felt it before. "Miaoyi?" Shin and of being, and Wuxia said. "Miaoyi, I have felt that too. That we should be." Yi Fan didn't say anything more and sped up. There were no footprints left on the snowy ground. He was like a faint shadow. The oasis where the Divine City was located was extremely vast. It had a circumference of several tens of thousands of miles. There were many cities and towns. At night, they settled down in a small city. The wind and snow beat against the window, producing flapping sounds. Yi Fan hadn't been lying on the bed for long before he felt something was wrong. He held the dragon-striped black gold Saint Spirit sword between his fingers. Only after 2 hours did he feel a living being enter the room. It was very agile and soundless. In an instant, his wariness was gone. It was that little golden creature. It was sneaky and had successfully concealed its aura. Even divine senses couldn't capture it. If they weren't so close, Yi Fan might not have discovered it. Not only is this little thing fast, but it also has the ability to conceal itself. He was astonished. At the same time, he felt it was quite funny. This little fellow was quite patient. It waited for such a long time before entering the room. He didn't need to think too much to know why the little golden creature came. It must have been obsessed with the divine source and chased after it to steal it back. Suddenly, it stopped and blinked its large eyes. It looked suspiciously at Yi Fan on the bed before turning around to escape. Yi Fan was astonished. This little thing was too vigilant. He quickly reached out and grabbed forward. Whoosh! Golden light shone as the little golden creature rushed out through the window. "Where are you going?" And Miaoyi chuckled. She was guarding the front. With a wave of her jade-like hand, a curtain of light shrouded forward. The little golden creature twisted its body at an inconceivable speed. It turned into a golden line and disappeared in a flash, rushing into the night sky. "Xiaoguai, where are you?" The great Xia princess's call came through the cold wind. Yi Fan rushed into the sky and discovered the great Xia prince and his sister. The two were very anxious. They had spent 800,000 kilograms of divine source to obtain the divine silkworm, but it had run away in just a few days. "Brother Gu, did it chase after you?" The great Xia prince asked because he had chased after it all the way here. He felt that the divine silkworm most likely came for Yi Fan. "I did see it before. It fled in that direction. And Miaoyi chased after it just now." Yi Fan pointed out the direction. "Correct, it's its aura." The brother and sister left in a hurry. Yi Fan rubbed his chin and laughed. This little thing was indeed interesting. Perhaps he could directly lure it back in the future. He didn't stop. He could use this opportunity to break away from Miaoyi and disappear into the snowy night. According to the speculations of the people of Divine City, if the Holy Lands wanted to use their ultimate weapons, they would need to prepare for at least a month. This was because it involved the so-called foundation and couldn't be taken out all at once. Yi Fan knew that time was limited. He wanted to make the best use of this time to break through. Just like that, he disappeared for an entire 20 days. No one knew where he was except for a little golden creature. This was a vast and boundless uninhabited area. Snow swirled in the air, and the mountains and rivers were covered in white. This place was far away from the oasis. For decades or even centuries no one would pass by. It was extremely desolate. However, in the past 20 days, there was a constant flow of spirit energy in this snow-capped mountain range. Especially in the past few days, divine light would frequently shoot into the sky. This snowy mountain was where Yi Fan had secluded himself. He had sealed himself in the belly of the mountain, but he still couldn't stop the sea of Genesis Chi from rushing out. Although the divine source and the heterogeneous source Chi didn't seem to be much, the essence Chi they contained was too majestic. It couldn't be stopped. Yi Fan didn't know that outside the restriction he had set up, there was a little golden creature. It had been baring its fangs and brandishing its claws in anger. Unfortunately, it couldn't rush in. The hundreds of flags were personally made by the Black Emperor in the past. The Tao patterns on them were incomparably profound. The little golden creature couldn't break through. In the last few days, the Genesis Chi in the mountain was like smoke. It rushed out, almost liquefied. The little golden creature finally calmed down and began to drink. The mighty Genesis Chi was too rich, enough for it to enjoy. Yi Fan, who was in seclusion, felt that most of the Genesis Chi had dissipated, but he couldn't stop it. He discovered that the endless source Chi wasn't completely absorbed. Instead, it was used as an impact to break through some kind of shackle. A large pile of heterogeneous source Chi was equivalent to millions of pure source Chi. They were all refined, but he still hadn't reached the 5th level of the Tao Palace. Everything was as he had expected. He needed more than 1,000,000 kilograms of pure source Chi. In the end, he gritted his teeth and began to refine the head-sized divine source Chi. Suddenly, divine light overflowed and shot into the sky. The power of the divine source Chi was unstoppable. It rushed into his body and cleansed his flesh. It made him look like a god. In the Tao Palace, the 5 great divine organs shook. The heavenly voice of the great path sounded. It was unknown whether it was the passing self or the Tao self, but it chanted a grand scripture that moved the life lord and made him eternal. A small cauldron floated in the Tao Palace, moving up and down between the 5 great divine treasures. Ever since entering the Tao Palace secret realm, the myriad Chi cauldron had risen from the sea of reincarnation into the Tao Palace. Outside, the little golden creature was enjoying it very much. The divine source Chi rushed out and completely submerged it. It was in a dazzling light. A huge amount of Genesis Chi washed over Yi Fan's body. It was impossible to absorb it all. Most of it rushed out. It was an extremely extravagant squandering. The chanting in the Tao Palace resounded throughout the mountain range. The silkworms outside were puzzled. Fortunately, no one passed by here. otherwise they would be shocked. The chanting continued for 3 days. Endless Genesis Chi submerged the mountain peak. The snow melted and the plants sprouted. It was full of life. This series of changes made the little golden creature open its mouth in shock. It worked even harder to absorb the divine source Chi. Boom. Suddenly there was a violent tremor. On the 24th day, divine light shot into the sky and sent the little golden creature flying. It fell to the ground, its face covered in dust. When the essence of the divine source Chi dissipated, the place was quiet. It was filled with a peaceful atmosphere as if a god had come to the world. In the belly of the mountain Yifan opened his eyes. His body was crystal clear like a celestial king. He slowly stood up. The moment he clenched his fists, he felt that he could grasp the whole world in the palm of his hand. This was an extremely strong confidence. He had broken through to the 5th heaven of the Tao Palace without the support of a holy land. He had reached this step by himself. Yifan's body and mind were calm and peaceful. He did not use his divine power because there was no need for that. He knew very well how strong he was at the moment. At this moment he had unparalleled confidence. His physical body finally had a trace of the power that the sacred body of the ancients should have had in the past. It was extremely strong. The moment Yifan came out of seclusion he suddenly smiled. He sensed that the little golden creature was panting outside. I really didn't expect it to find this place. It had to be said that the little golden creature was very vigilant. In an instant, it sensed something and turned into a beam of golden light to escape, disappearing in the blink of an eye. It's even faster than the little Peng King. Yifan did not give chase. He rubbed his chin and smiled. If this continued, the 800,000 kilograms of source Chi spent by the Xia dynasty would probably be wasted. He stood on the mountain peak, took out a mystic jade platform and prepared to cross the void. This was refined by the Black Emperor and could be carried around. As long as there was enough source Chi, it could travel a certain distance in a certain direction. In this way Yifan consumed a lot of source Chi and used more than a dozen mystic jade platforms before finally arriving at the area where the Jiang family was. I wonder if I'll have the chance to see little Tingting and Uncle Jiang. The Jiang family was more than 200,000 kilometers away from the divine city. Compared to the vast northern region, it was a very short distance. There were many countries in this area. After asking around, Yifan learned that the Jiang family lived in a holy land. Chapter 353. In the hearts of the people of the northern region, the Jiang clan was like a god, unshakable and supreme. Who knew how many countries there were in this area, big and small? Many of the ancient countries actually worshipped Emperor Hengyu. One could imagine how great the influence of the Jiang clan was in this area. They were almost deified. White snow covered the ground and the wind howled. Snowflakes danced in the air. It was so cold that the white breath that one exhaled would quickly turn into ice. In this cold winter there were very few people going out in the cities, let alone in the wilderness. Yifan carried the deity striking whip on his back and moved forward alone in the cold northern wind. He passed through dozens of countries and was less than 2,000 miles away from the pure land of the Jiang clan. There were a few small villages on this icy plain. In such a cold winter few people went out. Occasionally there would be hunting dogs pulling sleds. Not long after, Yifan found a cultivator in one of the villages. He was only at the Life Spring realm. After paying him 5 kilograms of source stone, he agreed to deliver the letter. Yifan couldn't go to the Jiang clan himself. Otherwise he would be killed because it involved the 9 secrets. This kind of inheritance was too important. He couldn't explain, nor could he say that he had entered the Purple Mountain. Otherwise, even if he delivered the message with good intentions, he would be detained. He didn't want something like this to happen if he ended up in such a miserable state. The blood of the gods flows in the bodies of the Jiang clan. In the house of an old hunter the earth bed was very hot. Yifan drank old wine and ate deer while chatting with the old hunter. From him he learned a lot about the Jiang clan. In the stove the firewood crackled. The room was very warm. After drinking a few cups of old wine and watching the cold wind and snow outside, Yifan suddenly felt very relaxed. In the end he left behind a piece of source stone and walked back into the wind and snow. On this day Yifan found a total of 5 low-level cultivators and asked them to deliver the same letter. Because this matter was very important he was afraid of accidents. The contents of the letter were very simple. There was a rough map of the Purple Mountain that pointed directly to the place where Jiang Taishi was trapped, and the name was clearly written. At the same time he left a strand of the Battle Saint technique imprint in each of the 5 pieces of jade. The Jiang clan would have no choice but to believe it. After doing all of this Yifan turned around and left. He didn't waste a moment, using the profound jade platform several times in a row to cross the void and pass through several dozen countries. However, he did not leave the area. Instead, he settled down in a city and quietly cultivated while comprehending the heavenly book of origin. In the past few days, this region was extremely tense. The Jiang family's experts were all out, seemingly searching for something. This made many people feel uneasy. Yi Fan knew that the letter must have been delivered, and the Jiang family had received the news. At this point, he let out a long sigh of relief. What needed to be done had been done. Whether or not they could save Divine King Jiang would depend on the Jiang family's strength. A few days later, a shocking piece of news spread throughout the northern region. The Divine King Jiang Taishu might still be alive. This news was earth-shattering and shook the entire land. It quickly spread out as if it had grown wings. Subsequently, the entire eastern wilderness was in an uproar. All the sects and holy lands learned of this news, leaving many important figures dumbfounded. The Divine King Jiang Taishu was a legend. He was known as the strongest offensive force in the northern region for the past 5,000 years, and no one could compete with him. In the past, when his name shook the world, he was not very old. In the eyes of many of the older generation, he was still a young boy, but he had already cultivated the Divine King's body to the realm of great accomplishment. Many people speculated that, given time, his future would be limitless. He was not very old, but he was like the sun in the sky. Whenever he made a move, it would cause the clouds to move. It was precisely when he was rising and at his peak that he suddenly disappeared from the world, never to be seen again. He disappeared from the eyes of the world forever. Back then, many people speculated that he might be in seclusion to break through to a higher realm. However, as time went by, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, people finally believed that this amazing divine king had really met with an accident and was no longer in the world. The Jiang family was the one who suffered the most. The birth of the divine king's body was a sign of the prosperity of a family. No one expected that Jiang Taishu would meet with an accident just as he rose to power. In the past, the Jiang family made a big fuss about this. They suspected that some of the Holy Lands had done this, and some peerless masters had joined forces to assassinate the divine king Jiang Taishu. More than 4,000 years ago, the situation was turbulent, and an earth-shattering war between the Holy Lands almost broke out. Fortunately, it was explained in the end and the storm subsided. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, more than 4,000 years had passed. The name Jiang Taishu had almost been forgotten by the world, and no one had expected it to appear again. Everyone was shocked. The heroic and elegant divine king of the past was actually still alive. Many people could hardly believe it. One should have a son like Jiang Taishu. This was the sigh of some of the ancestors who had passed away 4,000 years ago. What on earth happened? More than 4,000 years ago, Jiang Taishu was as handsome as jade, and his combat strength was world-shaking. No matter where he went, he attracted attention and was a peerless hero. Why has he been silent for such a long time? This was the question on many people's minds. Under normal circumstances, the divine king could live for 4,000 to 5,000 years. So many years had passed, and the divine king who was in his prime was definitely approaching 5,000 years old. It could be said that he had reached the end of his life, and his life force had dried up. How could there be news that he was still alive at this time? The good years passed like water, and the heroic divine king was already in his twilight years. How could an old divine king who did not have much life left have any great achievements? The news was accidentally leaked, and the Jiang family was furious, but in the end they did not find out anything. Not long after, new news came out that the divine king Jiang Taishu was trapped in the Purple Mountain. This news was even more shocking. Everything came to the surface. The divine king who had been missing for 4,000 years was actually in the Purple Mountain. The world was shocked. A historical mystery was finally solved, but it made people think more. How did the news that the divine king Jiang Taishu had been trapped for 4,000 years come out? Was great Emperor Wuxia's inheritance taken by someone else? The divine king was almost 5,000 years old, but he was still alive. Did he get something from the Purple Mountain? How long could he live? Was the fighting symbol formula of the 9 secret inheritance going to see the light of day again? Not only was the Eastern Baron shocked, but the Central Plains 100 sects were also shocked. They gathered around the Purple Mountain and never thought that there might be a living divine king inside. Yi Fan couldn't help but frown after hearing this news. The Jiang family's news had actually been leaked. Someone must have done it on purpose. 10 days later, the Jiang family took out their holy weapon and rushed to the Purple Mountain. The Divine Sun Furnace, also known as the Eternal Universe Furnace, was made from the phoenix blood gold and refined with the supreme immortal fire from the fallen sun ridge. It could shatter the world and burn everything. The power of this holy weapon was unimaginable. Whether you were the Peacock King who could shatter mountains and rivers or the Red Dragon Taoist, if you were hit, you would definitely turn into ashes. The Jiang family was the first to take out their holy weapon, the Eternal Universe Furnace. At the same time, they urged the Ji family to take out the Void Mirror, and the Yao Guang family to take out the Dragon Pattern Cauldron. This confirmed the news that the Divine King was trapped in the Purple Mountain. For a while the news spread like wildfire. The third attack on the Purple Mountain was speeding up. The Jiang family had a partial map of the Purple Mountain, which attracted the attention of all the major forces. The Jiang family had only one response: enter the Purple Mountain together and share the map. They wanted to save Jiang Taishu with the help of all the Holy Lands and the 100 sects of the Central Plains. Not to mention the inheritance of Great Emperor Wuxia, the fighting symbol formula of the 9 secrets was enough for the Jiang family to do their best. It could be said that the value of this unparalleled secret technique was immeasurable. After half a month, the world gathered at the Purple Mountain. It became a lively place. Many big shots from the Eastern Baron and the Central Plains surrounded the Purple Mountain. If they didn't move, they would be shocked. Because there was only one chance left. If they still couldn't break it, it meant that they would fail forever. The area where the Jiang family was located calmed down. Yi Fan moved forward in the wind and snow and finally saw a rough outline in the distance. He looked at it from dozens of miles away, observing with his divine perception. It was indeed a sacred pure land. The outside world was covered in ice and snow, but in front of him, there were clouds and rosy clouds. Clouds rose and colorful mist flowed. It was a gorgeous scene. Many mountains were hanging in the sky, not sinking at all. Every mountain was magnificent as if they had existed since the beginning of the world, emitting the aura of the ancient underworld. Some mountains were surrounded by colorful mist. The scenery was picturesque, with waterfalls that were thousands of feet long falling to the ground like the Milky Way hanging upside down. Some mountains were majestic and solemn, surrounded by demonic clouds, shocking people's hearts. These were only the tip of the iceberg. The deepest part of the iceberg could not be seen at all. It was said that there were many temples from before the Antiquity Age. Other than that, it was certain that the Jiang family had a divine city that would never fall, standing tall in the clouds. Although it couldn't be compared to the sacred city of the northern region, it was still shocking. It had survived through the Antiquity Age. Rumor has it that several holy lands have divine cities floating in the sky. Could it be that they are related? Yifan pondered. He couldn't help but sigh. Such a powerful force could indeed rule the eastern wasteland. Its foundation was unfathomable. Rumor has it that the 4 extreme scroll of the Eternal Universe scripture is the best in the eastern wasteland, just like the Sea of Reincarnation scroll of the Tao scripture and the Tao Palace scroll of the Western Emperor scripture. Yifan shook his head. Although he yearned for it, he knew that it was almost impossible to get it after seeing the Jiang family's aura. He thought about how he had boasted in the past about obtaining the Jade Lake mantra and blushed with shame. If the Black Emperor hadn't brought him to the Jade Lake, he wouldn't have gotten it. It was impossible to capture the disciples of the Holy Lands and search their consciousnesses. He had tried many times on the disciples of the Ji family, but their consciousnesses had directly shattered. The more he understood, the more respect he had for these immortal forces. It was almost impossible to fight against them with just one attack, unless he walked the path of a great emperor. Looks like it's almost impossible to see little Tingting, Yifan muttered to himself. After taking one last look, he turned around and left. There was no need to stay here. One day when his cultivation reached great completion, he could directly walk in and not watch from afar. Yifan moved forward on the icy plain and left quickly. He arrived at a small town 1,000 miles away. Looking at the narrow streets, he felt a sense of déjà vu, that is. He was stunned. In front of him there was a very small tavern that looked very shabby. An old man with a face full of wrinkles and his clothes were patched up. His movements were very slow as he wiped the tables and chairs over and over again. Uncle Jiang, why is he here? Yifan was shocked. Why was it like this? Was little Tingting here too? Chapter 354. The cold wind howled and snow flew everywhere. The tavern was located at the corner of the street. It was very shabby and had no customers. After a few years, Uncle Jiang had aged even more. His hair was completely white and the wrinkles on his face had increased. The tables and chairs were already very clean, but he was still wiping them slowly. His muddy eyes seemed to be reminiscing, and his expression was somewhat absent-minded. His clothes were very old and patched and his hands were full of calluses. His movements were very slow and his back was already bent. His white hair was sparse. Seeing this scene, Yi Fan's heart ached. Why was it like this? The Jiang family had brought the grandfather and grandson to the north, but why were their lives still so difficult? This lonely old man lost his son in his old age, and he raised little Ting Ting alone. He thought that their living conditions would change after coming to the Jiang family, but it turned out to be like this. He walked into the tavern bringing with him a cold wind. The old man's frail body immediately trembled and he slowly turned around. Yi Fan hurriedly closed the door to block the cold wind. He revealed a smile and said, "Uncle, do you have something to eat?" Uncle Jiang seemed to be very happy to see a customer. The wrinkles on his face seemed to have melted a little. He wiped his hands and brought tea over. "Little brother, what do you want to eat?" "Anything, no need to be so particular." Yi Fan didn't want him to work hard. He was so old but he was still running a tavern. He couldn't bear to see this. "Okay, wait a moment." Uncle Jiang turned and walked down. Yi Fan quietly sized up the tavern. It was very small and there were only a few tables. However, it was very clean, almost like the tavern in the past. The layout and furnishings were very similar. There were still no patrons and it was just the old man running the tavern alone. In this cold winter there were almost no customers. Yi Fan scanned every corner and found that the old man seemed to live here alone. He didn't find anything about little Ting Ting such as clothes. Not long after, the old man brought over some piping hot food. It wasn't any delicacy, but it was enough to stimulate one's appetite. Yi Fan ate a large bowl of noodles and a few pancakes. He even finished all the dishes. "Little brother, you really have a good appetite. I could eat so much when I was young." Uncle Jiang smiled kindly and asked him if he was full. "I'm full. It suits my appetite," Yi Fan said with a smile. Uncle Jiang cleaned up the dishes and poured tea for him again. With a guest here, his face was full of smiles. He was truly happy. "Uncle, do you live here alone?" Yi Fan asked. "Yes." The old man began to wipe the table again. "Uncle, the table is already very clean. Look, it's already shiny. If you wipe it again, it can be used as a mirror." "I'm old and have nothing to do. I can't help but want to wipe myself." Uncle Jiang put down the rag, shook his head and sat down. "Don't you have any relatives?" Yi Fan asked carefully, afraid to make the old man sad. "Yes, I have a granddaughter." Although the old man was smiling, Yi Fan could see a hidden worry in his eyes, as if he was worried about something. "What happened? Did something happen to Ting Ting?" Yi Fan was puzzled. "Doesn't she live with you?" "No, she's cultivating with someone. But this child is very filial. She comes back to see me every half a month." The old man was very happy. But Yi Fan was even more suspicious because the old man definitely had some kind of worry that couldn't be resolved. Yi Fan thought about it and walked out of the small tavern. He walked around the small town and sensed everything with his heaven-origin divine instinct. He didn't find any cultivators. There were no Jiang family members here. They were all ordinary people. Soon he returned to the small tavern. "Come, little brother, have another cup of tea." Uncle Jiang greeted him. He didn't ask why he came back. "Uncle, do you still remember me?" Yi Fan's bones creaked as he returned to his original appearance. He needed to find out what had happened. He was really worried about the grandfather and grandson. "Child, it's you?" Uncle Jiang's murky eyes opened wide in surprise. After several years, Yi Fan's appearance had changed. He was already 15 or 16 years old, but the old man still recognized him quickly. "Child, you." The old man was very emotional. "Uncle Jiang, please sit down. Let's talk slowly." Yi Fan helped him sit on a chair in front of the fire. "I heard from Ting Ting that you've caused a lot of trouble. Many people are trying to catch you." Uncle Jiang was very worried. Yi Fan smiled and said, "I'm living well. Don't worry, no one can catch me. Every time Ting Ting comes back, she says that she needs to cultivate well so that she can save you in the future. I'm also very worried about you." Yi Fan was very touched. Little Ting Ting was only 4 or 5 years old when they parted. He thought that she might not remember him at such a young age after all these years. He didn't expect this sensible child to remember him and want to save him. The sacred physique of the ancients had caused a lot of trouble in the northern region. He had a holy item. Even little Ting Ting had heard about it. Uncle Jiang pulled Yi Fan with his calloused hands and asked him to sit beside him. He looked at him carefully and said, "It's good that you're fine. It's good that you're fine." "Uncle, what happened? Why aren't you living in the Jiang residence? It's all cultivators there, and I'm the only ordinary person. I'm not used to living in a place that's suspended in the sky." "I'm afraid there's something else going on?" Yi Fan asked. The old man nodded and said, I don't want to listen to those rumors. I can live on my own. Yi Fan was infuriated and said, "You're already so old, how can they let you out?" He already knew that the Jiang family had let down Uncle Jiang's father, Xianxia, who sent a genius far away and died with regret. How could they treat Uncle Jiang like this? No, I wanted to come out. I didn't want to live there. Those people are all immortals to me. I'm just a mortal living in a palace on the clouds. It's really uncomfortable. I don't even have someone to talk to. How's Tingting? Did something happen? Yi Fan felt that there was something hidden. My poor granddaughter. She might not live to 20 years old. Murky tears flowed down Uncle Jiang's face. Yi Fan was shocked and said, "What happened? Tingting has some extreme physique. They said she would die young." Uncle Jiang's tears flowed down. When she first entered the Jiang family, Tingting's cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. Many geniuses blushed with shame, and her talent shocked the old antiques. Unfortunately, the old antiques of the Jiang family who had retired soon found out that she had a rare extreme physique. In terms of physique, she was extremely powerful. However, such people did not live for long. Most of them would die young. Since ancient times, apart from one or two people who were famous in the history of cultivation, no one else could live past 20 years old. After being found to have such a physique, Uncle Jiang heard many rumors. He was immortal, and the Jiang family was full of cultivators who could fly in the sky and tunnel underground. He was very lonely here and did not want to hear those rumors. Thus he strongly requested to move out. Through Uncle Jiang's narration, Yi Fan keenly sensed that the Jiang family was very complicated. There seemed to be two factions. Uncle Jiang and little Tingting were the descendants of divine King Jiang Taishu's bloodline. This bloodline did not have many people, but they were all very powerful. They took good care of little Tingting and the others. The people of the other bloodline were very cold. Most of the rumors came from them. Even so, I can't let you live in such a shabby little tavern. Yi Fan was very dissatisfied. The people close to Tingting built a mansion for me in a big city where mortals live. However, I'm not used to it. I'm old and always nostalgic. I like the little tavern in the southern region town, so I came here. Tingting is very optimistic, but I? The old man's eyes became murky again. Little Tingting's cultivation advanced rapidly. In less than 5 years she was already a young cultivator of the Nirvana realm. One had to know that she was not even 9 years old. Many of the older members of the Jiang family were shocked. The cultivation speed of the body of Yin was too shocking. Unfortunately, it would die prematurely, which made them feel that it was a pity. Yi Fan was also shocked. This was almost a realm every year. It reminded him of Xia Jiuyo, who was already a 4 extremities cultivator at the age of 13 or 14. Little Tingting's cultivation speed was definitely comparable. The old cultivators close to Little Tingting tried all kinds of methods. They flipped through ancient books and concocted all kinds of elixirs, but it was all to no avail. In the end they were helpless. Is there really no way at all? Yi Fan felt very worried when he thought that the cute little Tingting did not have much time left. I heard that we must find the earthly fruit to prevent the body of Yin from dying prematurely. Uncle Jiang's brows were full of worry. Yi Fan's heart skipped a beat. After the mortal essence fruit matured, it would become the earthly fruit. It was a peerless treasure comparable to the primordial divine medicine. Unfortunately, both the primordial divine medicine and the earthly fruit were almost extinct. The old Holy Lord and the old Emperor, who did not have much time left, searched the vast wilderness but could not find it. If they could find it, they could be reborn. Its value was immeasurable. Unfortunately, no one had ever found it. Uncle, don't worry. I can find the earthly fruit. Little Tingting will be fine. You can find the child? Uncle Jiang's eyes widened. He then shook his head and said, You don't need to comfort me. I have already accepted this reality. I have cut out the mortal essence fruit from the stone. After it matures, it becomes the earthly fruit. I think I can cut out this kind of divine fruit in the future. Really? Uncle Jiang was shocked. They said that unless the Yuan Taoist master comes back to life, there is only a sliver of hope to find the earthly fruit. Yi Fan instantly smiled and said, The reason why I said that is because I received the Yuan Taoist master's inheritance. Leave little Tingting's matter to me. Even if I can't cut out the earthly fruit, I will find a way to help her find in primordial divine medicine. Uncle Jiang choked with emotion. He grabbed Yi Fan with his rough old hand and asked again and again, Really? Really? Really, don't worry. Yi Fan answered affirmatively. In a few days Tingting will come back to see me. Child, you should go and see Tingting. Yi Fan smiled and said, Of course I have to see her. It will be almost 5 years. I wonder what the little girl is like now. The wind was biting cold and snow was falling. Yifan had been paying attention to all kinds of news these days. He hoped that divine King Jiang Taishu could walk out of the Purple Mountain alive. However, he was a little worried. Even if divine King Jiang was still alive, he most likely didn't have much time left. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to intimidate all the divine lords. It would be great if there were a few earthly fruits. He shook his head. This was too unrealistic. If I can cut out a complete divine medicine in the divine city, then I can solve this problem. He really hoped that divine King Jiang Taishu was fine and could live a little longer. That way little Tingting would be protected and no one would dare to provoke her. What a pity. The previous divine lords of the eternal celestial dynasty have sat on billions of miles of land, but they still couldn't get the primordial divine medicine. 4 days later, a little girl who was carved out of jade braved the wind and snow and landed in this small town. She bounced into the small tavern. Grandpa, Tingting. Uncle Jiang quickly went to greet her. Grandpa, you don't have to worry about me all the time. The little girl was dressed in white, whiter than snow. She was like a porcelain doll, very beautiful and cute. Her face was full of a happy smile. Uncle Jiang dotingly patted her head and said, "How have you been for the past half a month?" "Very good. Tingting is very happy. The old ancestor specially allowed me to see the first half of the Eternal Universe scripture." Chapter 355. In the past, when he first met little Tingting, she was only around 4 years old. She was extremely sensible and well-behaved, wearing clothes full of patches. Her little face was as red as a big apple. When the white-haired Uncle Jiang was beaten to the point of bleeding from the corner of his mouth and fell to the ground, she cried her heart out. Her big eyes were filled with tears as she begged with a tender voice not to hit her grandfather. Time passed quickly and in the blink of an eye, more than 4 years had passed. Thinking about it now, Yifan still felt a bit sour. "Tingting, did you come back by yourself?" Uncle Jiang asked kindly. "Yes." Little Tingting replied crisply. "Come in and see who's here." Uncle Jiang pulled her little hand into the room. "It's Big Brother?" Little Tingting cried out in surprise. Her big eyes were wide open and filled with astonishment. Yifan walked over with a smile and rubbed her head. The little blushing girl from before had finally grown up after a few years. "Big Brother, why are you here? Quickly hide and don't go out. Tingting heard that many people want to capture you." She raised her head and her long eyelashes trembled slightly. She was somewhat worried, but more so because of the joy and happiness of reuniting with him. After a few years, little Tingting had grown quite a bit taller. She was now full of life like a delicate porcelain doll. She wore a pure white robe and her hair was black and soft. Her eyes were large and full of intelligence. She was extremely beautiful and cute. Outside, snow swirled and the cold wind whistled, but inside the room was very warm. The wrinkles on Uncle Jiang's face had even smoothed out, and his benevolent smile had never disappeared. Little Tingting was very lively and cheerful. She was like a little angel carved from jade, drawing people's tenderness. Yifan was slightly relieved. He was afraid that little Tingting's personality would be affected because of her body, but now it seemed that he had worried too much. "Big Brother, are you really not in danger?" Tingting is still a bit worried. Little Tingting blinked her big eyes. "Don't worry, no one can capture me." Yifan smiled and lightly scratched her delicate nose. "Tingting will work hard to cultivate and help Big Brother in the future," little Tingting said seriously. Yifan immediately smiled and said, "Tingting, don't think about this. You and grandfather just need to be happy, don't worry about these things." He couldn't help but be surprised. Little Tingting was indeed in the Nirvana realm in just 4 years. He really wanted to give little Tingting some gifts, but he realized that he couldn't take them out. The diamond chakram and the dragon-patterned black gold Holy Spirit sword were what he wanted to give the most, but they were too famous. Once they landed in little Tingting's hands, it would cause a series of disturbances. As for the other things, he didn't even need to think about them. Of sacred objects would be confiscated by the Jiang Tingting. Ting can't even a little gift. He shook his head. Tingting doesn't want any gifts. I'm happy to see Big Brother. The little girl was very sensible and smiled happily. Ting of ting of ting of ting, ting didn't and didn't. Ting. Of ting of ting of ting of her of, and had as, of. Ting she ting of old, of. She was in the Nirvana realm and hadn't entered the Holy Ji Palace yet. There was still time. He said, Ting, I'll teach you a sacrificial ritual. She was in the Nirvana realm and hadn't entered the Holy Ji Palace yet. There was still time. Thinking of this, he said, Ting, I'll teach you a sacrificial ritual. The legend of a sacrificial ritual had been around for a long time. Many people studied it with varying results. Even if Ting Ting learned this ritual, she wouldn't expose anything. One had to say that Ting Ting was very smart and could learn it as soon as he taught her. As long as she had the time, she would be able to learn the highest essence. Ting Ting, remember, if you have a choice, forge a ritual implement. I'll give you a top-level weapon in the future. Ting Ting understands. She nodded seriously. Yifan thought about it and took out a small piece of broken divine source. However, he sealed it, afraid that the light would burn Uncle Jiang's eyes. Ting Ting, have you seen something like this? Ah! Little Ting Ting instantly exclaimed. Her face flushed red as she said, Is this God's source? Looks like you've seen it before. Yifan smiled. The little princess of the Jiang clan is the same age as me. She was spoiled and used something like this before. I've seen her take out a divine source being like this. Didn't they give it to you? No. My cultivation speed is very fast. I don't need those things. Although Ting Ting didn't care, Yifan knew that she was hiding her disappointment. The divine source is nothing. I can give it to Ting Ting. Yifan wanted to keep this granddaughter by his side. He didn't want her to be treated unfairly. However, he could only shake his head in the end. He was being chased by all the Holy Lands and couldn't do that. I'll give Ting Ting the divine source, but you can't take it back. I'll seal it with Uncle Jiang. You can use it every time you come back. Yifan didn't want to cause trouble for Ting Ting because of his good intentions. Big brother, keep it for yourself. Ting Ting doesn't lack anything. Ting shook her head like a little adult. After some persuasion, she finally happily held a fist-sized divine source in her palm. She looked at it left and right and was very happy. Uncle Jiang was very concerned about Yifan and asked him about his experiences in the past few years. Ting Ting was very curious and asked him about his cultivation process. Yifan only mentioned a few things in simple terms. There were many things that he couldn't explain in detail. Even so, it still shocked the granddaughter and granddaughter. Ting Ting thought seriously for a long time before saying softly, Big brother, I also want to give you a present. After saying that, she ran into her room and only came out after an hour. She solemnly gave Yifan over a dozen pieces of paper. The paper was filled with delicate small words. Big brother, burn it after you read it. Don't ever pass it on to others. Ting Ting was very serious. The moment Yifan received it, his eyes instantly focused. He first saw 6 beautiful ancient words that shocked him, 4 extreme volumes of the Eternal Universe scripture. Ting Ting, these, big brother, don't say any more. Quickly read it and then burn it. Ting Ting was like a little adult. It was obvious that she had thought about it carefully and was very serious. Yifan still wanted to say something but was stopped by her. Her big eyes were filled with determination. Yifan nodded and didn't say anything else. Then, his mind was immediately attracted by the Eternal Universe scripture. Although it was only 1 volume of an ancient scripture, it could be said to be broad and profound. The 4 extremes referred to the 4 pillars that supported the heavens in the 4 directions. The 4 extremes of the human body referred to the 4 limbs. These 2 words vividly summarized this secret realm. What one had to cultivate was not only unparalleled battle prowess, but also the great Tao. One's limbs had to be connected to the heaven and earth, reaching extremely far. The 4 extremes of the body had to be connected to the great Tao, connecting heaven and earth. The meaning of the scripture at the beginning had already intoxicated him. The later parts of the scripture were even more inconceivable. It could actually give birth to a Tao spirit, approach the great Tao and imprint the void. Yifan was intoxicated. The more he read the Eternal Universe scripture's 4 extremes, the more he read, the more he felt it was unbelievable. He was completely immersed in it. After an unknown amount of time, he raised his head and flicked his fingers. The paper turned to dust, but the scripture was imprinted in his sea of consciousness. Big brother, did you remember it? Ting Ting asked seriously. I did. It was really hard on Ting Ting. Yifan stroked her head and said, In the future, I will give you a weapon made of an emperor's relic. After staying there for a few days, Yifan used the xenogenic source to cleanse Uncle Jiang's body. He trained his bones and made his blood stronger. The effects were obvious. Uncle Jiang looked younger. He was full of energy and his body was in a much better condition. It wasn't that the Jiang family didn't have medicine that could extend the lifespan of mortals. Ting Ting had secretly taken some out, but Uncle Jiang had always rejected her. He was afraid of losing his son. He was afraid that Ting Ting would die. Over the past few days, Yifan kept promising him that he would find the earth fate fruit. That was how he felt. Yifan felt the pressure. Although he looked relaxed, he knew that the earth fate fruit was like the primeval godly medicine. It was almost extinct and it would not be easy to find. This King weather. It has been snowing for 7 days and 7 nights and it still hasn't stopped. The north really is a cold place. Aside from the source, nothing else can compare to it. I remember this little restaurant is owned by that old man. Why don't we eat and drink here? We can go on our way. Which old man? Of course, it is that short-lived little girl's grandfather. When Yi Fan heard these words, he immediately moved. The joints on his body moved and he immediately changed his face. Grandpa, don't be angry. Ting Ting was afraid that Uncle Jiang would be depressed. She pulled his rough old hand and tried to calm him down. Good girl, Grandpa is not angry. I just don't want you to feel wronged. Uncle Jiang touched her hair. Ting Ting is not angry. When I grow up, I will show them immortality, Ting Ting answered childishly. At this moment, the door was pushed open. A few men walked in, bringing with them a cold air. One of them said, "Oh, business is good. There are customers in this King weather." Little Ting Ting turned around and raised her young and tender little face, saying, "You are not welcome here." So the little genius is here too. Obviously, these were the young disciples of the Jiang family. Ting Ting had a shadow body and did not have many years left to live. She had no relatives, so these people did not care at all. Their only fear was that Ting Ting's cultivation speed was getting faster and faster. Recently, she had gained the favor of an ancestor-level figure from the divine King Jiang Taishu's faction. "We are just passing by and want to have a meal. We don't have any other intentions," one of them explained carelessly. "You can leave. We are closed now," Ting Ting said. She did not want her grandpa to cook for these people. "Why are you closing in the middle of the day?" one of them muttered. "All right, let's go." The other walked out first. "She is just a little brat with only a few years left. What is there to be afraid of?" Their voices came from the wind and snow. "If she brings out that ancestor, you and I will definitely suffer. Let's take it easy. If we can really save that ancestor by attacking the Purple Mountain this time, this little girl will become a real little princess. With the power of an advanced divine king, we might be able to change her fate and solve the problem of her shadow body." The wind and snow howled and the words dissipated. However, not long after, those people returned. Yi Fan's expression changed. Other than them, there was another familiar face. It was Xianxia. Even though many years had passed, he still recognized him at a glance. Years ago, when he was in the southern region, he was chased by the Jiang family's knights for thousands of miles. It was all because of this person's instigation that they wanted to rob him of his treasures. Everything that happened in the small town where Uncle Jiang and Ting Ting had lived was still vivid in his mind. Jiang Yifei and Jiang Kaixin had left a good impression on Yi Fan. Only Jiang Yichen was cruel and merciless. That time he almost lost his life. Chapter 356. After a few years, Jiang Yichen had changed from a teenager to a young man in his 20s. He was dressed in cyan and looked proud. Below him was a strange green beast that looked like a lion or tiger. The green beast fur was extremely long, extremely clean, sparkling and translucent like jade. Meanwhile, there was a jade horn on its head that released 5-colored divine light. The beast was walking in the air and did not really step on the snow. It was 1 foot above the ground and looked extraordinary. Yi Fan put away the divine energy sphere that he gave to little Ting Ting and kept it in his body. It was because the strange beast on the street was too unordinary. It had a psychic jade horn that could sense divine objects. It was because this beast sensed that he had a treasure that Jiang Yichen's greed and killing intent were aroused. Jiang Yichen almost lost his life. "Drink some wine here." Jiang Yichen jumped off his mount and pushed the door open. He strode in with cold air. "We also want to choose this place, but they said they are closed." A person behind said and glanced at little Ting Ting. "Why are they closed at noon? Why not open a shop if you don't want to do business?" Jiang Yichen said coldly. After a few years he had become extraordinary. "That's true, but they said it was opened by the grandfather of the genius in the family." A person laughed. It seemed that he was fanning the flames. At this time, Jiang Yichen looked into the room and glanced at Uncle Jiang and Yi Fan. Then he stared at little Ting Ting and said, "It's you." "Hello, Brother Yichen." Little Ting Ting raised her tender face and said in a crisp voice, Jiang Yichen didn't pay much attention to her. He sat in front of a table, looked through the menu and began to order dishes. "Brother Yichen, we are closed today." Little Ting Ting looked up and explained. Even though Jiang Yichen was also a member of Immortal King Jiang Taishu, he was not close to little Ting Ting at all. He was very cold and almost ignored her. When Yi Fan saw this, he sighed inwardly. This person was indeed cold by nature. Years ago, when they were looking for Uncle Jiang and his granddaughter in a small town in the southern region, Jiang Yifei and Jiang Kaixin were very polite and sincerely welcomed them. At that time, Jiang Yichen showed a disdainful look. He looked down on everything and didn't care about them at all. It could be imagined that after entering the Jiang family, he definitely wouldn't show any kindness or warmth in the past few years. He must have always been like this. Jiang Yichen ordered more than a dozen dishes in a row. He put down the menu and said, "Okay, I'm done. Go and cook." "We are not open today," Little Ting Ting said in a small voice. "Why don't you open the shop?" Jiang Yichen glanced at her and then said to Uncle Jiang, "Hurry up." Yi Fan wanted to slap him in the face. This person was not very related to Uncle Jiang by blood. He should have called him Grandpa, but now he was treating him like a servant. Ting Ting knew that she couldn't afford to offend Jiang Yichen because he had a high status in the Jiang family. Few people in the younger generation dared to challenge him. The Jiang family was divided into two branches. One was the branch of the Holy Lord, who was very powerful. The other was the descendants of Immortal Jiang Taishu, who were all powerful. Jiang Yichen was the descendant of Jiang Taishu and had a great-grandfather. At the same time, he was very close to the Holy Lord. In the younger generation, except for Jiang Yifei and a few others, no one could suppress him. "Brother Yichen?" Little Ting Ting whispered and looked up at him. "Don't call me brother." Jiang Yichen interrupted her coldly and said to Uncle Jiang, "What are you waiting for?" Jiang Yichen didn't care about family and blood relations at all. He only had disdain and contempt. "Opening a shop is a business. Hurry up." Someone echoed. "Hurry up and serve the dishes. He is giving you money." Another person also joked. However, others didn't dare to go too far. Their status was not as high as Jiang Yichen's. If something went wrong, they would definitely be punished by the family. "Okay, wait a moment. I'll cook right away." Uncle Jiang pulled Little Ting aside and didn't let her say anything more. He was afraid that his granddaughter would be wronged. Suddenly, a long roar came from outside the town. Jiang Yichen and others all stood up and rushed out immediately. "Ting Ting, Uncle, I'll take you guys away." Yi Fan saw everything that happened just now and his heart was in turmoil. "No, it's a big crime to leave the Jiang family without permission. You will be hunted down all over the world." Little Ting Ting shook her head and said, "In fact, it's okay. In addition to Jiang Yichen, Brother Yifei and Sister Kaixin are very good to me." The little girl was very cheerful and optimistic. She only remembered a few people who were good to her and ignored other unhappy and gossips. Yi Fan thought about it and nodded. He didn't continue to insist. He had many ways to solve the problem between the grandmother and the granddaughter. If he couldn't solve it, he could directly tell the ninth bandit, Jiang Yi, who was Jiang's biological brother and Uncle Jiang's uncle. "I don't think it's suitable for Uncle Jiang to live here. Didn't the divine King Jiang Taishu's people build a mansion for you in a big city?" "Grandpa said he's not used to it and doesn't feel that there's such freedom," Little Ting Ting answered. Yi Fan immediately smiled and said, "Uncle Jiang is just old and afraid of being lonely. This is very easy to solve. Invite some people of the same age to live there and he will definitely get used to it." After Yi Fan's persuasion, Uncle Jiang nodded. It was indeed as Yi Fan said. When one reached old age, they would feel lonely and didn't want to live alone in a big mansion. That day, Little Ting Ting took Uncle Jiang with her and went to a neighboring city. She provided some lonely old people with shelter and food for free. Those people were naturally willing to do so. Yi Fan didn't show up. Little Ting Ting did everything. He didn't want others to notice it as it would bring trouble to the grandmother and granddaughter. "Big brother, when will you come to see Ting Ting again?" Little Ting Ting's eyes were red and she was reluctant to leave. "It won't be long. I'll come often." Yi Fan smiled and patted her head. He sealed the divine source and handed it to Little Ting Ting. He didn't go to the mansion but turned around and strode away. "Big brother, take care." Little Ting Ting waved her little hand behind him with red eyes. "Ting Ting, cultivate well. I'll find the earthly fate fruit for you." Yi Fan disappeared in the blink of an eye. In reality, he didn't leave. Instead, he continued to walk around the area. He sighed to himself. Jiang Yichen was quite a schemer. He actually arranged for people to watch outside Uncle Jiang's mansion. Back then, when this mansion was built, these people had already appeared here, quietly waiting for him to appear. Jiang Yichen knew the relationship between him and the grandmother and granddaughter. He knew that he had the sacred body of the ancients, so he didn't go to the outside world to search for him. Even though Uncle Jiang didn't live here in the past, the mansion was very famous. One only had to ask the collateral disciples of the Jiang family to find out. This Jiang Yichen really can't forget about me. He predicted that I would come here one day. It's just that by chance I met Uncle Jiang and the others before I did. Yi Fan sneered and walked into the ice field with the god-beating whip on his back. He already knew that Jiang Yifei had a palace outside. Snow was falling like goose feathers, blanketing the world in whiteness. Yi Fan stood quietly on the ice field for 7 days. He didn't go near the palace and only guarded the path he had to pass. On the 9th day, more than a dozen riders appeared in the distance. They were all strange beasts. They broke through the snow and roared in the air. The one leading them was Jiang Yichen. They were all masters. The weakest among them was at the 4th heaven of the Holy Ji Palace, and several of them were cultivators of the 4 levels secret realm. Yi Fan revealed his real body and didn't hide his appearance. He stood quietly in the snow and stared at them with the god-beating whip on his back. Even though Yi Fan's appearance had changed after so many years, Jiang Yichen still recognized him at a glance. "It's you?" His expression changed right away. "That's right, it's me." Yi Fan deliberately decided to make a move here for little Tingting and Uncle Jiang. He waited for 9 days. "I get it now. The person I saw in the tavern a few days ago was you. If it weren't for the sudden change of events that day, we wouldn't have met face to face today." He was ruthless and quick-witted, so he immediately made such a connection. "All of you, kill him and take the cauldron of myriad chi for me." Immediately, 7 figures rushed over at the same time and surrounded Yi Fan. One of them was at the 4th heaven of the Holy Ji Palace, 3 were at the 5th heaven, and the remaining 3 were at the 1st heaven of the 4-level secret realm. Yi Fan didn't say anything. Today he was here to kill. He put his hands behind his back and faced them calmly. His calmness didn't match his slightly immature face. Kill. The 7 of them attacked at the same time. 7 kinds of magic treasures were taken out. There was a magic lamp, an ancient cauldron. Light flashed and covered the sky with frightening power. Roar! Yi Fan roared loudly, shaking the entire plains. The snowy mountains in the distance immediately experienced a great avalanche. It was as if a flood was roaring, rumbling as it surged downwards. For hundreds of thousands of years, the sacred body of the ancients at the 5th heaven of the Holy Ji Palace was rarely seen. Today he appeared and roared like thunder, shaking the world. He was like an eternal divine cauldron, full of vigor and vitality, sweeping up the sky. The cultivator at the 4th heaven of the Holy Ji Palace was shattered right away. The 3 cultivators at the 5th heaven of the Holy Ji Palace were hit by the terrifying sound wave and fell to the ground. Even their faces were pale. Yi Fan turned into a beam of golden light and rushed forward. His speed was so fast that it made people shudder. His golden fist was unstoppable and indestructible. All the magic treasures in front of him were shattered by him. The 3 cultivators at the 5th heaven of the Holy Ji Palace were shattered by his 3 punches and turned into a mist of blood. Their souls were destroyed and they disappeared from the world. Yi Fan took to the air and rushed towards the 3 cultivators at the 1st heaven of the 4-level secret realm. He didn't pull out the god-striking whip but attacked them with pure physical strength. Bang, bang, bang. A series of collision sounds were heard. Yi Fan's golden fist had the power to destroy everything and nothing could stop it. Kacha, kacha. All the magic treasures of the 3 cultivators at the 1st heaven of the 4-level secret realm were turned to dust. At the same time they were also torn apart and shattered in the sky. You. Jiang Yichen and the remaining 3 people were all shocked and could hardly believe their eyes. Only sacred grounds can cultivate a sacred body of the ancients at the 5th heaven of the Holy Ji Palace. It's almost impossible for the sacred body of the ancients to reach this level on its own for hundreds of thousands of years. Yi Fan was very calm. He carried the god-striking whip on his back and strode forward. His single step made the entire ice field tremble. The pressure of the sacred body of the ancients was terrifying. There was an unparalleled majestic power surging. The 3 of you are cultivators at the 2nd heaven of the 4-level secret realm. Attack together and kill him. Jiang Yichen shouted. As soon as the 3 of them moved, Jiang Yichen turned into a beam of green light and rushed into the sky on his strange beast. He abandoned them and escaped alone. He was cold-blooded by nature. He felt that the 3 of them were no match for Yi Fan, so he escaped without hesitation. The void trembled and heaven and earth trembled from the pressure. A huge cauldron rushed out of Yi Fan's Holy Ji Palace. Tens of thousands of layers of heaven and earth chi fell and expanded to 18 meters tall. It rushed out in an instant and caught up with Jiang Yifei in the blink of an eye. It descended with a rumble and suppressed him on the ice field. The three cultivators at the second heaven of the 4 levels secret realm all turned pale. They fled without fighting and rushed in 3 different directions. Boom. Yi Fan threw out the diamond chakram. This weapon interweaved with Tao and truth had earth-shattering power. It sank the ice field in front of it in an instant. The ice and snow disappeared and the red ground collapsed. It was a scene of devastation. The cultivators who fled in that direction did not even make a sound before they were smashed into pieces by the diamond chakram. There was not even a mist of blood left behind. They were completely turned into ashes. Whoosh. Yi Fan took out the dragon-pattern black golden holy spirit sword in another direction. A beam of black light tore through the sky and turned into a roaring dragon. It rushed up in the blink of an eye. The dragon-pattern black golden holy spirit sword rushed past. All of the cultivators' treasures and defensive measures could not withstand it at all, and they were all pierced through. He could not rest in peace. The small black sword that was less than an inch long pierced through his forehead, leaving a bloody hole. Then hundreds and thousands of sword auras shot out from his body. Boom. In an instant his body was full of sword holes. He shattered in the void, leaving nothing behind. At the same time Yi Fan chased after him personally. He turned into a golden bolt of lightning and cut through the sky, catching up with the third cultivator in the blink of an eye. That person was brave. He turned around and used the 8 divine brute force to its fullest, shaking the heavens and earth. He summoned 8 godlike virtual bodies and took out more than a dozen weapons. The sky rumbled from the pressure. The entire ice field was covered in feather-sized snowflakes, rolling back the world. However, all of this was in vain. Even though he was powerful and had amazing combat strength, he was doomed to die in the face of a sacred body of the ancients at the 5th heaven of the Taoist palace. Yi Fan held the holy whip in his hand and used it to break all spells. He swung it down, breaking again and again. The deafening sound was endless. Be it the virtual bodies of the gods or the various weapons, they were all smashed. Ah! The cultivator's spiritual consciousness was damaged. His hair was disheveled and he screamed at the sky. Yi Fan's whip lashed out and everything fell silent. There was only wind and snow left in the world, and all the enemies were turned into ashes. This was the sacred body of the ancients. Being at the 5th heaven of the Taoist palace was already terrifying, and his combat strength was shocking. Unless he encountered a great emperor of the younger generation, he would be hard-pressed to fight against someone of the same level. The diamond chakram and the dragon-pattern black golden holy spirit sword all sank into Yi Fan's body. At the same time the myriad qi cauldron shook, shaking Xianxia out. How dare you come to the territory of the Jiang family to kill me? He felt a trace of fear. Yi Fan smiled very brightly and said, I've offended 2 great sage lands. Killing you is nothing. Is there anything I don't dare to do? Chapter 357. The cold ice field was a vast expanse of whiteness. It was bone-chilling and stretched as far as the eye could see. The smile on Yi Fan's face was so bright that it was like a ray of warm sunshine in the heavy snow. However, it was extremely terrifying in Jianghu's eyes. His heart was filled with fear. Even in the bitter cold of the ice and snow, he was sweating all over. If Jianghu wanted to get rid of him, there was no one who could save him on this desolate ice field, no matter how extraordinary his identity was. The void shook violently as Jianghu took out a Tianluo umbrella. When it was opened, it was like a part of the sky pressing down on Yi Fan. Yi Fan was calm and composed. He walked forward step by step as if he did not see the black demonic umbrella and went straight for Jianghu. Crack! The moment the black Tianluo umbrella was about to hit him, Yi Fan waved his golden hand and slapped it into the sky. The dark clouds in the sky were dispersed, and the demonic umbrella was shattered into pieces. Jianghu's expression changed. The sacred body of the ancients was so powerful that it could turn his magic weapon into ashes with just a lift of his hand. How could he fight against it? In the past, a simple order from him almost killed Yi Fan. Now Yi Fan was putting the same pressure on him, making him feel the terrible torture. It was even more painful than being beaten into a pulp. At this moment he was suffering from a kind of extreme fear. Clang, 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 tens of thousands of swords rang at the same time. Thousands of sword auras illuminated the entire ice field, dazzling and dazzling. Each aura was more than 10 meters long and as thick as a water tank. The blazing divine aura almost pierced through the void and rushed to Yi Fan, drowning him in it. Unfortunately, it was all useless. Yi Fan did not stop it at all. The sacred body of the ancients emitted a golden light. In this white world of ice and snow, he was like a dazzling sun. Pop, pop, pop. Thousands of sword auras shattered inch by inch in front of Yi Fan. They could not get within 3 feet of him. His black hair danced in the wind and his eyes were clear. He had an otherworldly temperament. Shrouded in golden light, he was like a god walking in the world. Seeing this scene, Jianghu was even more afraid. The enemy came calmly in the snow and could not stop him. For him, it was an unspeakable torture. With a shake of his hand, he tossed out a purple gold gourd. Purple energy rushed into the heavens, dyeing the ice and snow in the sky purple. It quickly enlarged as if a great mountain was pressing down. This purple gold gourd was unordinary. It was personally refined by his grandfather, and it was incomparably powerful. Yi Fan saw through it, but he was still calm and composed. He reached out a large golden hand and slapped over. Bang! The purple gold gourd was as large as a mountain, causing the entire ice field to tremble. However, it was easily grabbed by Yi Fan. With a flick of his golden palm, the purple gold light flickered. Jianghu let out a blood-curdling scream. The divine sense he left in the gourd was erased, and the gourd had a new owner. The purple gold gourd shrunk to 3 inches in height, appearing in Yi Fan's palm. It was sparkling and translucent, purple light flowing about. 3 questions. First, is there anyone in the Jiang family who wants to harm little Tingting? Second, can your grandfather stand up to the Jiang family's sacred leader? Third, what is the secret that the Jiang family is suppressing with the Eternal Universe Cauldron? Yi Fan revealed a mouthful of snow-white teeth and asked the 3 questions. Jianghu was drenched in sweat. He knew that Yi Fan was doing this on purpose. He wanted him to experience the fear of being threatened with death. In just a few years, Jianghu had completely grown up. He was no longer the poor young man who could be killed by a few knights. Now that the sacred body of the ancients had reached the 5th tier of the Taoist palace, he stood in the wind and snow, shrouded in golden light. He was like an immortal king who could look down on Jianghu. Jianghu's expression changed. He did not say a word. He knew that if Yi Fan wanted to kill him, he would not be able to escape death no matter how he responded. Yi Fan approached step by step. It was as if he had become one with heaven and earth. There was a natural and terrifying rhythm to his movements. With every step the earth trembled. Jianghu was almost suffocated by the pressure. Finally, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment he finally collapsed. His whole body was powerless and he fell to the ground. Haha! Yi Fan laughed out loud. Jianghu's face was livid. He felt humiliated. It was worse than killing him. The young man he looked down on a few years ago was now in control of his life and death. Whoosh! With a flash of light, Yi Fan used Jianghu's own purple gold gourd to suck him in and completely seal him inside. He did not want to completely break off relations with the Jiang family. Jianghu's grandfather had a powerful background that could compete with the Divine Lord. It was not good to go too far right now. He was afraid that those big shots would use special means to track him down, so he kept him alive for the time being. Everything would depend on how things developed in the future. Yi Fan put away the cauldron. There was a strange beast inside. It had a 5-colored jade horn on its head and could sense the existence of spirit treasures. This kind of strange beast was almost extinct and very rare. He did not kill it because it would be of great use in the future. In the end, he also sealed it in the purple gold gourd. The middle-aged cultivators of the 4 levels secret realms and the young people of the Holy Palace secret realms had nothing left. Whether it was the Dharma treasures or the strange beast, they were all erased. Yi Fan took out the mysterious jade platform and directly crossed the void. It was not good to stay here for long. The northern region was boundless. 100,000 miles were frozen and millions of miles were covered in snow. Crossing the void continuously, Yi Fan returned to Haozhou, where Wuxia and the others had rebuilt the stone stronghold. The land was covered in silver and this place was the same. It was covered in white snow, and the white breath he exhaled would quickly turn into ice shards. Ah, little Yi, you're finally back. I heard about what you did in the Divine City. What a shocking gamble. Tu Fei appeared immediately. He was in the stone stronghold when he received the news from Li Heishui of the Holy City. He knew that Yi Fan had left for more than a month and had been waiting for him. Haha. Yi Fan also laughed, feeling very close. Let's go. We won't go home until we're drunk, Tu Fei laughed. Where's the Black Emperor? Asked Yi Fan. The reason why he could gamble in the Holy City was that Tu Fei had pretended to be him and the Black Emperor to rob everywhere. He had helped him a lot. That damn dog has been gone for several days. He has plundered everywhere. I don't know how many people he has bitten. The female disciples of the Holy Lands turn pale when they talk about that dog. That man? Yi Fan didn't know what to say. Let's go. Since that damn dog hasn't come back yet, we should eat a black dog meat hot pot. In this cold weather, dog meat is the best. Let's drink some aged wine. It's like an immortal's life. The room was steaming hot. The fire in the stove was blazing. Not long after that, the delicious smell of meat permeated the air. Yi Fan, Tu Fei, and Jianghu sat cross-legged on the stove. They clinked glasses and ate with sweat beading on their foreheads. Not long after that, Wang Shu and Dumbo came. They drank aged wine and ate dog meat together. It was a good atmosphere. They raised their glasses continually, talking about what had happened these days. Yi Fan didn't conceal anything. The others were amazed. Little brother Yi, when will you take us to the holy city? Wang Shu and Dumbo were envious. Tu Fei said, the holy city is like spring all year round. Compared to the bitter cold outside, it's much better. I also want to go there to spend the winter. Suddenly they felt something was wrong. A bone-chilling murderous intent rushed in. What meat are you eating? The big black dog had come back. Donkey meat. Tu Fei said confidently. It's really donkey meat. There are some lamb slices too, Dumbo explained in a low voice. The big black dog's face darkened. He bared his teeth, revealing a murderous look. I'll go get some firewood. The fire is not strong anymore. Jianghu was the first to run away. I'll go cut some lamb slices. Wang Shu also wanted to run away. It's really donkey meat. If you don't believe me, you can try it. Tu Fei felt guilty. Woof. The big black dog jumped on the stove. The room was in chaos. Barking and cursing filled the air. After 1 hour, everything was cleaned up. This time they used real donkey meat. At the same time, they roasted 4 gazelles for the big black dog. Finally they calmed him down. To cover for you, I have to go through wind and rain, suffering a lot. Do you think it's easy for me? You're sorry? Hearing that, Tu Fei curled his lips. Damn dog, you have the nerve to say that. In name you cover for Yi Fan, but in fact you're robbing for yourself. You're just a robber. You say you want human pets everywhere. Every time I have to clean up your mess. The man and the dog almost started fighting again. How many human pets did you get? Yi Fan asked the big black dog. 7 or 8 from the Holy Lands. Those people were too weak. They all broke down. Their mentality is too weak. The big black dog shook his head disdainfully. Yi Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This damn dog was too good at messing around. Even a thick-skinned man would break down if he was captured by a big black dog as a human pet. That damn dog has done a lot of embarrassing things. Tu Fei added. Finally, Yi Fan took out a fist-sized god source and threw it to the big black dog. His eyes widened and he almost drooled. There were 3 pieces of the god source that sealed the golden fairy. They were all fist-sized. One was given to little Ting Ting, and the second was given to the big black dog. Then Yi Fan gave the last piece to Tu Fei. God source was rare in the world and had many magical uses. All the Holy Lands wanted it. Woof. The big black dog was very greedy. He took his piece and started to snatch Tu Fei's piece. Damn dog, how dare you bite me? The fight between the man and the dog broke out again. The table and the roof on the firebed were almost blown away. Yi Fan finally stopped the dog, but he was bitten twice. I got a spirit beast. Yi Fan released Jiang Chen's mount. I want it. The big black dog pounced on it again, drooling. Can you ride it? Yi Fan wanted to give it to Tu Fei, but he was excited. Treasure hunting rare beasts are not for riding. They are for finding treasures. This is the mount of an important disciple of the Jiang family. It can't be seen, Yi Fan warned. Then I'll keep it for now. I'll get a pet first. Yi Fan finally realized that he shouldn't show the good stuff in front of the greedy big black dog. Otherwise it would snatch it. Then Tu Fei told him about a mysterious young man who was chasing after disciples of the Holy Lands. He attracted the attention of the sons of Holy Lands. I know who he is. I saw him 2 days ago, the big black dog said. You saw him? Who is he? Yi Fan was surprised. He's a bastard like you. He didn't show his face and attacked people from behind. Luckily, I have a good nose and remember his smell. Damn dog, tell me. Give me another god source and I'll tell you. Damn dog, you're too greedy. Yi Fan stretched out his hand and grabbed it. 5th heaven of the Doctrine Palace. Although Tu Fei was mentally prepared, he was still shocked when he saw it with his own eyes. He said, it feels like a dragon has awakened. His chi is so strong that it's frightening. Alright, I'll tell you. It's that lady boy Pang Bo. What? Pang Bo, he's out. Yi Fan was pleasantly surprised. After coming to this world, the two of them had been separated for less than a year. Today they could finally meet again. Where is he? Yifan asked. At this moment, the big black dog was drooling as he looked at the golden hand staring at him. He said, once the Saint Physique enters the 4-level secret realm, his blood can be considered as spirit medicine. In the future, damn dog, you even dare to plot against me? Yifan slapped him and said, tell me, where is Pang Bo? I saw him the day before yesterday. He's chasing after the light-shaking Saint candidate, the big black dog said. Tu Fei sighed in admiration. I should make friends with such a fierce person. Yifan's heart skipped a beat. Pang Bo had finally succeeded in his cultivation and walked out. Yifan believed that they would meet soon. He knew that Pang Bo was helping him. Fifth Grandpa, this time I'm going to cut some stone tools to save people, Yifan said to Fifth Grandpa Zhang. He hoped that he could gain something from the divine treasures left behind by the Yuan Taoist master. He was very respectful to the old man. He had relied on the old man's family source heavenly book to reach where he was today. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for his cultivation to progress. He did not give Fifth Grandpa Zhang divine source because the old man had no use for it. However, he gave him many different kinds of source energies, enough for everyone in the stone village to live in prosperity for many generations. Cut it. I also want to see what's inside. Fifth Grandpa Zhang nodded. You're still cutting? Don't cut another poisonous fruit, the big black dog interrupted. You damn dog, you still have the nerve to mention what happened last time. Do you know what that was? You bit off hundreds of thousands of kilograms of source energies in one bite. The big black dog suddenly jumped up, his expression full of shock. He was tongue-tied. You wastrel. Tu Fei scolded him after learning about it. The big black dog was flabbergasted. You mean the fruit that poisoned me half to death, made me spit white foam and convulse for half a month is the divine source fruit that can increase the lifespan of divine lords? Yes, it's that kind of fruit, Yifan said. When the big black dog heard the affirmative answer, he did not say anything else. He turned around and ran madly toward the pile of stones in the ice and snow. Chase after him. Damn it, this damn dog is too outrageous. He wants to steal it again. The veins on Yifan's forehead bulged. He quickly chased after the dog. Tu Fei and the others followed behind him. Wolf, you have to be kind. There are so many divine treasures. No matter what, you have to give me half, the big black dog said. This pile is all yours. Yifan pointed at a pile of stones that looked like a small mountain. I only want this pile of stone tools. I don't want anything else. The big black dog straightened his bald tail. His eyes were burning as he stared at the stone rollers and millstones. Go somewhere cool and stay. You're so kind. You damn dog, you've never been kind. Yifan pushed him aside. The pile of stone tools looked ordinary. There was nothing special about them. It was hard to imagine that they were left behind by the Yuan Taoist master. I hope I can cut out something different, Yifan said to himself. He was not in a hurry to make a move. Not long ago he had cultivated the heavenly source divine sense. He felt that he should be able to see something now. These are the divine treasures of the Yuan Taoist master. They must be much more precious than the rare stones in the stone shops of the Holy Lands. He was looking forward to it. Chapter 358. These are the treasures left by the Yuan Taoist master? Tu Fei was very surprised. He had never thought that the ordinary stone rollers and stone blocks on the ground would have such a great history. These weren't just treasures. They could be described as divine treasures. The black dog was almost like a rascal. He lay there with his big paw pressing on a pile of stone tools, unwilling to get up. Yifan threatened, don't get in the way. I've seen stone kings in the divine city. Maybe they're here too. If we really find something strange, you'll be the first to suffer. Stone kings are nothing. I've even seen kings of the primordial races. The black dog didn't care at all. What are you talking about? Tu Fei didn't believe him. Yifan's heart jolted. The large black dog had definitely come from the Purple Mountain. He had already guessed a little about its origins. He thought of the Eastern Barren Great Sage's land and the 100 sects of the Center Prefecture about to launch a large-scale operation. They would attack the Purple Mountain with their divine weapons. He couldn't help but ask, Black Emperor, are you sure the Purple Mountain is safe? Don't worry. No one can get anything. Even if they can get in, I'm sure they'll suffer heavy losses and retreat. Divine King Jiang Taishu is in the Purple Mountain. Do you think you can save him? He continued to ask. This was the question he was most concerned about. How would I know? I've never been in the Purple Mountain. Hurry up and cut the treasures. The black dog changed the topic and didn't want to say more. Finally, Yi Fan moved the dozens of stone tools into the house and observed them in front of the stove. Jianghu was very excited. Wang Shu and Dumbo were even more excited. They kept rubbing their hands, eager to try. Yi Fan activated his origin divine sense. 2 beams of purple light shot out of his eyes to examine them one by one. These stone tools looked ordinary, but with his origin divine sense they were all different. Stones from the absolute beginning forbidden area. Yi Fan was surprised. Usually he couldn't see anything special about these stones. But when he used his origin divine sense to examine them, he could feel the strong aura of the absolute beginning forbidden area. He looked at 2 stones in succession and felt that they were both empty. However, when he moved the 3rd stone block, his eyes flashed and he said, "There's a divine source inside." The large black dog couldn't sit still any longer and he said, "Let me see. If I show it to you, it'll definitely be a meat bun thrown at a dog and it won't return." "Brat, your words are too harsh." The large black dog was extremely furious. "Isn't it?" Yi Fan smiled and said, "I can give it to you, but don't have any ideas about the stoneware below." "Okay, no problem." The large black dog readily agreed to it and nudged Dumbo beside him, saying, "Disciple, help me cut it open." It had once taught Wang Shu and Dumbo how to cultivate, and was now shamelessly ordering them around. "Gotcha." Dumbo, on the other hand, was more direct and slapped it away, not having the patience to cut the stone. The large black dog grimaced and his heart ached greatly. He flew into a rage and said, "Take it easy, there's a divine source inside. If you damage it, I'll throw you into the origin ancient mine." He hurriedly pulled away the crushed rocks, looking for the divine source. A scorching divine light shot out, dazzling and eye-catching, and a holy aura rushed over, but the large black dog was extremely displeased. "Brat, you're screwing me over. This divine source is too small, and it's not even the size of a bean." This was only a divine source bean, and though it was very precious, everyone present had already seen fist-sized divine source blocks, so it wasn't that shocking anymore. Suddenly, the large black dog's expression froze, and he put away the divine source. He pulled out a tuft of red fur from the crushed rocks. It was incredibly beautiful, as if it had been dyed in blood, and it gave off a slightly tragic and frightening aura. Jianghu was shocked and he staggered back a few steps, almost falling onto the ground. His face was deathly pale. Wang Shu and Dumbo hurriedly stepped forward to support him and asked, "What's wrong, 5th Elder?" Yi Fan was also shocked, and he walked forward to support the old man and asked, "What's the matter, Elder?" At the same time he also saw that tuft of red fur, and he took it from the large black dog's paw. Instantly he frowned. How could there be such a thing in the rocks? He had heard some legends in the stone workshop that there were original gods, original ghosts and original demons in the ancient mine, and they would occasionally leave traces in the most precious stones. "Don't cut it, you can't touch these things." Jianghu's lips trembled and his face was pale. "Elder, what's the matter?" Tu Fei asked. "You guys wait here. I'll go take the thing left behind by my ancestor and compare it with this red fur." Jianghu was supported by Wang Shu and Dumbo, and they walked into the inner room. After a long time he walked out holding a jade box in his hand. It was definitely an ancient jade, and its color was already stained and a little dim. "What's this?" Tu Fei didn't understand. Jianghu opened the jade box with a solemn expression. There was nothing valuable inside, only a few tufts of red fur, which were very horrifying. These tufts of fur were almost the same as the one that had been cut from the stone tool, but because of the passage of time, they were a little dim, as if they had been dyed in blood. "These." Tu Fei was confused and he looked at Jianghu in confusion. "These are the only things that my ancestor, the Yuan Taoist master, left on the night he disappeared," Jianghu said with a trembling voice. Yi Fan had heard about the Yuan Taoist master's past. His later years were very inauspicious, and he would see many strange things that other people couldn't see. It was really horrifying. On the night he left, a whirlwind of red fur blew outside, and a strange, terrifying creature howled unceasingly. It howled for a whole night. The sound was mournful and shrill, and it could spread dozens of miles away. Humans and animals were scared, and it made people's hair stand on end. On that night, there was a 4-year-old child of the Zhang family who had accompanied the Yuan Taoist master. He was so scared that he became demented and he was cured half a year later. According to him, that night he saw red fur growing on one of his ancestors' hands, and he also saw a humanoid creature walking outside the window. He turned his head and then the first ancestor disappeared forever. "It's so strange." Tu Fei was shocked. He knew how powerful the Yuan Taoist master was, and he could be called an extraordinary person in the world. After his source technique reached the peak, he was close to the great Tao, and he had the ability to see through heaven and earth. Even the great sage masters couldn't do anything to him. However, their later years were so inauspicious, and they couldn't control themselves. What happened? The big black dog's eyes were also flickering, and he was thinking about something carefully. After a long time he said, "The Yuan Taoist master's later years are so inauspicious." Yi Fan squatted on the ground and began to restore the stoneware. He was shocked to find that the stone was hollow, and the source of God should be as big as a human head. It was eaten by something. It didn't destroy the stone, and it took away the source of God. After knowing this, not only was he shocked, but the expressions of everyone present changed. I said it. How could the things left behind by the Yuan Taoist master be ordinary? But it was destroyed by an unknown creature. Wang Shu was very angry. Yi Fan's expression was solemn, and he didn't say anything. He squatted down, and forcefully slapped away the two stoneware that had been determined to be worthless. The stone roller indeed had nothing, but the stone block was very unusual. In the center there was a stone fruit. This, obviously, its essence had been exhausted, and then it was completely petrified, returning to an ordinary object. What fruit is this? It's definitely not an ordinary object. It's a pity that its essence has been sucked away. Everyone felt the seriousness of the situation. The rare treasures left behind by the Yuan Taoist master had been taken by someone else. Child, don't cut them. These stoneware are contaminated with demonic power. I'm afraid that you'll be like our ancestor and something inauspicious will happen to you, Jianghu advised. His expression was very ugly. It doesn't matter. It should be something that happened on that night 10,000 years ago. So much time has passed, and even if there was something, it has already disappeared. Yi Fan shook his head. You don't understand what I mean. I'm afraid that if you are contaminated with this kind of aura, you'll provoke something in the future just like our ancestor. Jianghu said with a trembling voice. The terrifying old age of the Yuan Taoist master. Did something happen to him or did he provoke something? Where did they go in the end? Tu Fei murmured to himself, then said, Little Yi, you really have to be careful. The Yuan Taoist master was an extraordinary person, but he still couldn't escape his terrifying fate. I'm not afraid. I want to see what kind of terrible things will happen to me in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold wind blew in the room. Those red hairs seemed to be attracted by a terrifying force falling on his body. Seeing this, even the big black dog opened its eyes wide, vigilantly scanning the surroundings. No way it's coming for you now? Tu Fei was shocked. Jianghu's lips trembled. Our ancestors' fate? Is that disaster going to happen again? With a boom, Yi Fan's body emitted a dazzling divine light. He was like an eternal celestial furnace, blazing hot. His qi and blood were like the sea, like a real dragon awakening. All the red hairs were smashed, turning into ashes and falling to the ground. Yi Fan's body was spotless. He said, I don't believe it. I want to see what happens in the future. Just now, he felt an unknown force trying to invade his body, but it was rejected by the holy body, which refined it completely. You guys step back. There should be something strange left in these stones, but it can't do anything to me, Yi Fan said. Yi Fan consecutively cut open a few millstones, but they were all empty with nothing inside. What the Yuan Taoist master left behind is definitely a divine treasure. The essence inside these stones hasn't been sucked away. Why are they also empty? Tu Fei didn't understand. Jianghu said, all the stone tools in the stone stockade are here. Not all of them belong to my family. Let me pick some. Based on his memory, Jianghu picked out more than 10 stone tools. They were all stone blocks, stone locks, and stone platforms. They were all commonly used items. Yi Fan cut open the other stones. They were all empty as expected. There was nothing inside. Those were the stone tools of other families in the stockade. Gotcha. He cut 4 stone tools, all of which belonged to Jianghu's family. He was shocked, but he also frowned. There were definitely rare treasures inside, but the essence had all disappeared. Among them, one of the stone platforms was hollow. It was as big as a wash basin, and there were some fragments of the source of God. Oh my God, the wash basin is such a big piece of the source of God. This is an earth-shattering treasure. Damn it, what took it? Tu Fei exclaimed. The big black dog's eyes widened. Then he howled miserably, Is there any justice? This emperor wants to bite someone. Still that kind of thing. There's red hair left. Yi Fan's expression was serious. Although the inside of another stone tool was not hollow, there was a strange plant that had already been petrified. Seeing this, even Yi Fan could not remain calm. It was very likely that this was an immemorial godly medicine. There was not a single common item in the divine treasury left behind by the Yuan Taoist master. Damn it, it's a godly medicine, it's an immemorial godly medicine. The big black dog was about to go crazy. His large eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He said, "There was a great emperor who used this godly medicine to refine a celestial pill. He forcefully saved a close friend who had died." The big black dog seemed to be possessed. He jumped up and down, circling around these stone tools and howling endlessly. Damn it, it's a godly medicine. He was really going crazy. When Yi Fan saw the inside of the third stone tool, he also wanted to curse. He also had the urge to go crazy. This is definitely an earthly fate fruit that has been petrified. There was a stone bead as big as a bowl inside this stone tool. It looked like a mortal origin fruit, but it also looked like a dragon ball. It was definitely an earthly fate fruit that was also known as a fake dragon ball. What earthly fate fruit? This thing is definitely not inferior to an immemorial godly medicine. When the big black dog heard this, he was so angry that he kept barking. Two-Fei's face was also filled with shock and regret. He mumbled, "The Yuan Taoist master is really nature-defying. He just casually left behind a few stone tools and they are all like this. They can really be called a divine treasury, but damn it, what terrifying thing got here first?" Although Jianghu, Wang Shu, and Dumbo did not really understand these rare treasures, they could feel the emotions of Yi Fan and the others, and they knew that these were definitely peerless divine treasures. The immemorial godly medicine and earthly fate fruit were both things that Yi Fan yearned for the most. They could save little Ting Ting's life, but their vitality had been sucked away, causing him to feel extremely disappointed. The divine treasury that the Yuan Taoist master had left behind was actually empty, causing him to be filled with regret. All of this was really too much of a pity. In the fourth stone tool there was a petrified small tree. Everyone's expression was numb. They did not need to think to know that this was definitely a nature-defying divine treasure. This emperor's heart is bleeding. With the big black dog's greedy nature, this was indeed his true feelings. Is there still justice in this world? The divine treasury of the Yuan Taoist master, what on earth stole it? Tu-Fei was also full of regret. If all of these things appeared, it would definitely shock the world. Not to mention the saint masters of all the holy lands, even the great emperors of the central prefecture would have to bow down and beg for them. The previous saint masters and emperors sat on billions of miles of land, but in their later years, they could not even obtain an immemorial godly medicine to prolong their lives. They could only wander around the great desolate plateau by themselves. In fact, no one had ever heard of anyone successfully finding one. However, the divine treasury that the former Yuan Taoist master had left behind was actually such nature-defying divine treasures. Just thinking about it was shocking. After continuously cutting open several stone tools, they found that they were all peerless treasures. No one could remain calm and they were filled with unwillingness. If these things appeared together, I'm afraid even the heavens would not tolerate them, because each of them could go against the heavens and change one's fate. Yi Fan gradually calmed down. If he really obtained these immemorial godly medicines, he would feel that it was unrealistic. It was completely unrealistic. Now I believe that there really is a bastard in the unseen world. What a reckless waste of God's treasures. The big black dog was extremely resentful. This kind of result caused everyone to sigh. Jianghu suddenly spoke up and said, "Didn't we cut out the mortal origin fruit last time? Perhaps there are still some that were missed and not all of them were destroyed." There were only 8 stone tools that belonged to Jianghu's family, which was also the Yuan Taoist master's divine treasury. Would there really be a peerless treasure among these stones? The few of them were not sure. Cut them out, cut them all out. I have a feeling that we might have missed out on some incomparably important divine treasures. It might even be an immemorial godly medicine. The big black dog urged Yi Fan to cut them out. He wanted nothing more than to immediately cut out a peerless treasure.